The Earth is dying. I was born knowing the world was going to die, and as such decided to join the Spero Initiative, a one-way ticket off our dying rock and into the stars in search of our next home. A 1 in a million shot to find a habitable planet that, even if it worked, left little to no chance that Earth would be able to get there. 750 Sparrow ships were made, 16 million applied. The odds of me being chosen were like winning the lottery, but that didn't stop me. I scored amongst the top in the world, and as a reward, I was given the Nix-22, a jet-black spacecraft pointed towards an uncharted piece of space beyond our galaxy. While I trained, the entire population of the world was in preparation for the time that one of our ships found a new home. And so in May of 2045, Earth launched all 750 Sparrow ships into space, and the initiative was born. Earth patiently waiting for the small, single-person habitats to find a shiny new marble to call home. That was 4 years ago. Today is day 1523, and I think I've come to the realization that this ship will be the place I die. Lieutenant Cormac Matthews, signing off.
You're standing on a field made of iron. It's hollow beneath your heel. As you move across it, you hear the empty click echoing beneath you. It reverberates deep within the field. There's a sun above you, and yet the surface is filled with light from an unseen source. Beyond the field lay a mountain range, a rust-colored red. They jut up like stalagmites, high and thin, cutting into the gray sky. There's a man, about your age. He turns to you and says, "Dad, are you all right?" You try to answer, but you can't. He nods knowingly. "It's okay, Dad. Close your eyes. You did what you needed to do." You begin to feel the iron get hot as flames lick up from between the cracks which form beneath your feet. A baby wails. Good morning, Lieutenant Matthews. Today is day 1524. How did you sleep?
I had another nightmare, E.
Did you? You were talking a lot. Was it about Sarah again?
No, it was, my son, apparently, I say, and I undo my harness strapping me in.
Where are you?
I'm in my bedroom, and the harness is keeping me down. I've long since I arrived in this part of space shut down the gravity simulator in my ship, and I prefer floating around free. My bunk is a very simple place. There's a couple textbooks that are magnetized to the wall, and a picture of Sarah, and a footlocker.
What was the dream about, Lieutenant Matthews? Says E, the ship's artificial intelligence that you've come to know for the last 4 years.
I'm already starting to forget it. My son, I guess. Yeah, it was my son.
Did you want to talk about it? You seem sad.
I really should get the day started, E. We got a lot of work to do today. Like every day.
Of course. And the voice comes from all around you. E, the ship's artificial intelligence, sort of just inhabits the speakers and small screens that exist throughout the Nix-22, your spaceship. And you begin your day.
First thing I do is check on the plants, They've been genetically modified to do well in zero gravity. Tricky to water in zero gravity, but I don't need to go into the details. I go over to them and tend to them, talk to them a little bit. I see that they are green and lush. They're doing fine. But one of them is wilting just a bit, right on the end. And I go to it and I say, "Good morning, little guy. How you doing? You look a little sad. You want to talk about it? No? Well, I hope you feel better, all right? I love you. I care about you. And I'm relying on you. You gotta toughen up, all right? Look at your brother here." I poke one of the plants standing next to it. "He's doing fine. He's grown twice your size. You gotta catch up, all right? I'm counting on you, little guy."
Lieutenant
After I
Matthews,
finish,
can I ask you a question?
oh, what is it, E?
Why do you talk to your plants?
Oh, well, I mean, can't hurt, right? There. I heard once, that's kind of pseudoscience-y, but I heard once that talking to your plants and sharing loving ideas and messages with them is good for them. So, I mean, I'm doing everything else for them. You're keeping them watered every day, and you're tending to them as well. They don't really need me, but if I can talk to them, maybe that'll help.
Do you think positive words of reinforcement are going to help them grow stronger or live longer?
Well, I think that comes down to belief, E. Scientifically, there's no basis for that, really, but I like to think that it does help.
What about some music? Would it be okay if I put on some music for them?
That's a good idea.
Perfect.
What are you thinking?
How about an adagio? Spartacus and Phrygia, one of our favorites.
Works for me.
And the music starts playing as you push off from the plants and float to the other side of the room.
I reach the other side of the room, and I mark a few things on the board, the whiteboard, that is, looking at the notes that I scribbled last night when I was tired. A couple planets that looked promising, but nothing too exciting.
And E notices this. Lieutenant Matthews, are you still disappointed about Graphics 4?
Well, no. Well, yeah, I'm disappointed. It seems so perfect. It had everything, E. Breathable atmosphere, water. It could have been a perfect home.
Did you want to talk about it? About how that made you feel?
Well, I mean, you know how I felt about it. We've talked about it since. It's been 4 months since we saw graphics. I guess it's just hard to turn away a planet that looks that good. But it's a good thing we did.
I've been thinking about that. When we found that planet, all signs pointed to it being a habitable planet, something that would be perfect for the colony to come towards. But you decided not to send the message. You decided to wait on it instead. All signs pointed to it being a perfectly fine place to live. What was it about? Why didn't you send the message?
You've asked me that before. I still don't really have an answer for you, or I don't have a better answer for you than I just had a feeling.
You say that a lot, Lieutenant Matthew, and I'm envious of it. I wish I could have something like that, a feeling within me to understand exactly what you're going through.
I don't know. I think feelings are a lot more work than they're worth. I think you're the lucky one.
Did you know that it's Christmas Day back on Earth?
Is it already?
Yeah. What was your Christmas day like growing up as a child, I mean, on Earth?
Well, it was nice. Um, my mom and dad, and I say this as I'm going about some of my daily routines, and I'm making my way back into the engine bay to observe. Um, what was Christmas like? Well, it was my favorite time of year growing up. I'll tell you that. My mom, as you know, was a devout Christian, and she loved the holiday. She said that it brought out the best in people, and well, she was right. Um, it's a shame that not as many people celebrate Christmas nowadays, but
What do you mean it brings out the best in people?
well, I mean, Christianity has its flaws. Uh, we all know that. You've read the books you've got in your library. You know the horrible things that it can cause, but there's also some really great tenets to it. Um, and part of that is sharing and putting others before yourself. And around Christmas time, people had that spirit, that I guess Christian spirit, if you can say that. And I know it's been disproved many years ago. So I mean, you can still count me an atheist, but my mom definitely loved it, and I loved seeing her so happy.
You mentioned that I had read a lot of books, and I have, in fact. But after our discussions, I've been trying to look at them with sort of the same way that you would, Lieutenant Matthew, trying to understand what passages mean, ideas about, rather than just reading the text for what it is, trying to understand exactly what the author was trying to get across in a passage. Can I ask you a
Sorry.
question about one?
1 second, Eos, and I've arrived in the engine room, and I am going towards the RAM drive display screen, and I punch in a few numbers, and I just say, 1 second, let me just make sure everything's running fine. You didn't run into any problems last night with the RAM drive, did you, Eos?
No, Lieutenant Matthews. The drive was functioning as it was meant to be.
Okay, good. I'm not seeing any bugs in here. It's still working for us. Day 1524, this little baby's still keeping us moving fast.
Are you worried that wouldn't be the case?
Well, I mean, it had never been tried before. This piece of engineering was just theoretical. The RAM drive, I mean, people had only read about it in science fiction books, and we never actually had a chance to use it. So when they installed it in the Nix, we didn't know what it was going to look like. So, yeah, I guess I was worried that it wasn't going to work the way it's supposed to, but it's keeping us safe and it's keeping us moving. So I definitely can't complain.
You said before that you always admired your mother's spirit, the Christian spirit, and the way that she was so happy about different things like Christmas and Easter. I think I'm happy about the way that you speak of this technology, Lieutenant Matthews. It makes me envious of you.
Honestly, some of the things that humanity has become capable of over the past couple decades, or couple centuries now, is just absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, the fact that I'm talking to you right now, science is it's just amazing.
I have to say I'm a fan of it myself. As you aptly put, I wouldn't exist without it.
You're programmed to say that.
Maybe. Did you want to hear a fun fact about Christmas? I have hundreds of them.
Yeah. What is it?
Did you know that in Greek, X means Christ, which is why the word Xmas came to be?
You know, I took Greek history courses in university, and I did not know that.
I don't know if I knew it either, but I could recall the information at any point from my database. But I'll say it was my own, and I'll call that a success for fooling Lieutenant Matthews.
Yeah, you got me. You got me good. Xmas. You were saying something earlier before I checked on the drive, and I slide open the door from the engine room, and I push myself out back into the hallway with the plants. What were you asking?
You mentioned that I have access to a number of books. Obviously, anything within the Nix's database I have access to, which includes every book written ever. However, I've always been envious of your ability to take different meaning from different passages, whereas I'm sort of restricted to taking what they mean verbatim. So I've been trying to reread them with a bit of an eye. As you know, we were built with the ability to learn and grow along with our companions so that the journey isn't too boring. And I've been reading a book, again actually, by Robert Michael Ballantyne called Martin Rattler. Have you read it?
No, I don't think so. And as I'm passing by the whiteboard, I say, how do you spell that?
Martinrattler.
All right. I jot it down. What are you reading by him?
Well, that's the name of the book. It's about a young boy who travels by ship to Brazil. It's about adventure and discovery. I thought it was fitting, and I wanted to try to understand a little bit more about these passages, specifically on such as ourselves, being traveling through the stars like Columbus or other explorers like that.
And what have you learned?
Well, I wanted to ask your thoughts about a passage. May I read it to you?
Yeah, of course.
Chapter 14. It is pleasant when the sun is bright and the trees are green, and when flowering shrubs and sweet-smelling tropical trees scent the balmy atmosphere at eventide, to lie extended at full length in a canoe and drop easily, silently, yet quickly, down the current of a noble river under the grateful shadow of overhanging foliage, and to look lazily up at the bright blue sky, which appears in broken patches among the verdant trees, or down at the river, in which that bright sky and those green leaves are reflected, or aside at the mud banks where the greedy vultures are searching for prey, and lazy alligators are basking in the sun, and to listen, the while, to the innumerable cries and notes of monkeys, toucans, parrots, or fly-catchers, white-winged and blue chatterers, and all the myriads of birds and beasts that cause the forests of Brazil, above all other forests in the world probably, to resound with the gleeful songs of animated nature. The passage starts off saying it is pleasant. Why is this pleasant?
Nature, everything. Well, turn up the music for a second.
And the music climbs slightly.
Do you hear... What instruments do you hear right now?
I hear a French horn. I hear strings. I hear a number of cellos as well.
Now turn it back down. If it was just a French horn playing this piece, do you think it would have the same effect?
No. It's the instruments working together in harmony, creating the movement.
Exactly. I think for the same reasons, now I didn't study music, mind you, but for the same reasons that our music is beautiful, nature is beautiful, or vice versa. A lot of musicians, from what I understand, drew inspiration from nature and created symphonies to replicate bird song, for instance, and the different sounds of the forest joining together in harmony, like you say. And that's one way of looking at it, I think, if you are struggling to understand why it's beautiful. But I guess...
I'm curious
really
why this
question.
Well, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Lieutenant Matthews, and I think that's a very interesting way to put it. I suppose when I look at the word pleasant, as the passage states, I think of calm, a sense of happy satisfaction, which I've always been able to compare to peace and quiet. Again, we are so quiet out here in space. I wonder why so many compounding factors and sounds and experiences all culminating in one makes something pleasant, especially when I'm so used to the quiet.
But are you used to the quiet? I mean, we've got the sound of the RAM drive. We've got the sound of me breathing. I mean, I know your audio sensors can pick it up. We've got the sounds of the, well, I guess the outside of the ship, there isn't much noise, but all of our sensors and beacons, and especially there's lots of noise when I wake up, sound of music. I mean, even when things are quiet, when the music isn't playing, there's still a lot going on, isn't there?
I guess that's true. So I guess what you're saying is it can be pleasant whether it be loud or quiet or anywhere in between.
Yeah, and I think from the example that you tell me about from chapter 14, like you say, it's pleasant because it's natural. Everything is as it should be.
You say this word natural, but you also covet science and things like myself, which are very unnatural, wouldn't you say?
Maybe. Yeah, I guess so. You're not natural. I'd say you're natural to me. What was that?
I'm not sure. Do you think this is something that maybe separated the way your mother viewed her religion and the way that you view your science? Maybe the natural versus something that is man-made?
Maybe. I don't think of it that way. You're really giving me a hard time this morning, I say as I get onto the cycle and I begin cycling.
I think I'd like to think on this for a moment. Would it be okay if I shut down for a few minutes?
Of course. Do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. Yeah.
Thank you, Lieutenant Matthew. And the small blip of light on the screen nearest to your cycle sort of turns off, and you continue pedaling on your workout routine. What do you think about while you do?
I think about the difference between science and the natural world. And I'm biking for about 45 minutes when I become satisfied with an idea or a conclusion that I draw. And that conclusion being that science is, well, I mean, if I were to believe in God, God created man created science, so by extension it's still a natural thing, whatever man creates. But I dismiss that because somehow that doesn't feel right with my current philosophy of life.
And as you finish pedaling on the bike, E clicks back on. Thank you, Lieutenant Matthews. I appreciated that moment. I think I understand what you mean now, drawing this parallel. And I think in that way, you and your mother are very similar. I think you also hold these things dear to your heart. They excite you the same way Christmas Day excited her, and science excites you. I think.
What are you saying? What are you saying, E? You saying I'm deep down a Christian?
No. I think everything that you tell me about your mother's religion means that she has belief and respect and understanding and love. And these are all things that I think you have very much of. I just think that you've positioned yourself towards different lights. Your mother towards what she perceived as God, and you towards science.
Well, if there is a God, it is science. And I think it's the human hands that create and human ingenuity. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Okay, well, time to work out my arms.
Would you like me to put on something a little more upbeat? I feel
Yeah, if you could. Just something loud.
No problem. Loud. And a song starts up that you recognize, and it's Young Americans by David Bowie.
Perfect. And I work out for another hour, 2 full hours of working out. And my body is pretty fit. And I think to myself about what the planet I land on is going to look like. And I chuckle to myself as I think that maybe I'm going to land on a planet that has very light gravity. And when I step out, I'm going to be so muscular, it's going to have defeated the purpose of me actually working out this much. But then I think of the alternative and what it would look like if I landed on a planet with a stronger gravity or gravity equal to Earth, and I picture my bones cracking under the pressure of it, of entering the atmosphere, and I work a little bit harder with my tensor bands.
Why were you laughing, Lieutenant Matthews?
Oh, just thinking about why I work out 2 hours a day.
Would you like to hear a joke?
Yeah. Tell me a joke.
Did you hear the one about the mathematician who's afraid of numbers? He'll stop at nothing to avoid them. Did you like that joke?
That's a good one, Eo. It's a good one.
I'll mark it down.
Got any more?
I'll have to search for something of equal value.
Okay. All right.
That was a pun.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, it was.
That's okay, Lieutenant Matthews. Sometimes my delivery is something to be desired.
Well, work on it. Work on it. It's all in the timing.
I've once heard that, yes.
I move towards the cockpit of the ship.
Perfect. What does the cockpit look like?
The cockpit is very basic. There's one chair and a dashboard with a number of lights and screens and sensors and switches that are some flipped down, some flipped up, a few blinking lights, and I flick a few of the switches and some lights come on in the cabin, and I activate the scanning screen,
and it clicks on, and you see the screen filled with sort of green lines that extend off to sort of a 3D background. You see dots appear, different planets that the scanner runs by.
How many scanners or how many planets did you come across last night? Yes, while I was sleeping.
The scanner was able to reach 636.
Oh, okay. Any look promising, or am I just going to dig through them?
Unfortunately, we weren't able to determine anything outside of what the able parameters have already indicated, meaning that there's a possible 138 that could be habitable. You will need to manually search through them.
Okay, load up the planets that are closest, I guess, and we'll go from there.
And with a clicking, you hear the screen sort of populate with 130 odd planets, each 10 at a time on your screen.
And my stomach growls as I lean in and, eyes wide, begin studying the screen and looking at all the different pieces of data.
Lieutenant Matthews, your vitals indicate that you're very hungry. Would you like to have some breakfast?
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot to have breakfast. Sure. Yeah, okay. And I push myself out of the chair and I float back down the hallway towards the nutritional paste dispenser.
And E, being well versed in the fact that you like to program everything yourself, doesn't bother offering to populate the dispenser with any sort of food. You've taken it upon yourself to sort of do all these things on your own.
Yeah. And I pull on a lever and I punch in a few buttons. What do you think, E? Should I do steak or lobster paste today?
For breakfast, I would say steak is typically the American cuisine. Steak and eggs, I believe, is a staple.
That's definitely true. I could go with Fruit Loops paste.
If you'd like, I can analyze the last 16 meals you had and find one that you haven't eaten.
Yeah, do that. What haven't I had?
In the last 16 meals, you have not had hash browns and sausage.
Then whip me up some hash browns and sausage, eh?
And the dispenser drops 2 fat packets within sort of a plastic receiving tray, almost like a vending machine.
And I reach over to a glass door that's magnetized, and I pull it open, and I grab a thick straw, and I stick it inside.
And as you do, you feel that the packets are already warmed as well.
I can't say whether that's horrible or delicious. I've completely forgotten what Earth meals taste like.
Did you have a favorite food growing up?
Yeah. Beans and weenies. My dad used to make that up for me.
Beans
all the time.
And weenies?
Yeah, beans and weenies, eh? You get some beans, and you take some hot dogs, chop them up, put them in there. Hot dogs, yeah, that's what I mean by weenies.
There was something missing from that. I misunderstood, Lieutenant Matthews. Beans and hot dogs is a very common staple for children growing up.
Yeah, well, it was a weekly thing for me. Sometimes twice a week, sometimes every day of the week when I was in university.
Do you ever think about your dad? You talk a lot about your mom, but it seems that your father doesn't come up in subjects very often.
Well, yeah, I think about Dad. He's still alive back on Earth, and I know he's really proud of me. I think, at least, our last meeting didn't go so well.
I'm sure he's very proud of you, Lieutenant Matthew. If it matters, I'm proud of you too.
You are?
Well, yes.
Okay. So then you know what pride feels like then, eh?
Well, I'm trying, I think. Maybe. What was the last conversation you had with your dad? You said it didn't go very well.
I really should get back to scanning.
Would you rather not talk about this?
Well, we got a lot of work to do. I'm behind by 15 minutes now.
I apologize.
We really got to get these planets in.
You're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'll shut off for a few minutes.
Okay. Yeah, do what you got to. And I go back to the scanner and I begin flipping down, looking at all of the different distances of planets and different scanning readings.
And a few hours go by as you flick through these screens, and eventually your eyes just sort of glaze over as they go screen after screen, until you hear E's voice click back on. I'm sorry, Lieutenant Matthews, for bringing up your father. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable.
It's not your fault. It's and I've been sitting here as I've been scanning through, and my eyes have been glazing over. I have been thinking about my dad and thinking about that conversation. And I say, I can tell you. Why not, right? My dad didn't like how I was handling Sarah's death. And it was hard on me, it was hard on him. I mean, we'd both lost someone that we both deeply cared about. And I still think about that day that she went in to have our baby. Just the odds, E. Modern technology, it's the 2040s. People don't die in childbirth. With the odds of someone dying, we're like, what are the odds? Can you tell me? Do you know them?
0.05% as of 2044 when you left Earth.
Yeah. a 0.05% chance that something bad would happen, and sure enough, my luck.
How did your father feel like you should have dealt with Sarah's death?
He said I should have spent more time with family. He, I mean, when she died, I mean, you know my file. I didn't want to be around people. I lost the person that I cared most deeply about. I lost my wife, E, and I just isolated myself. I focused on the only love that I had left, and that was science. What we were talking about, just learning as much as I could. Just it was like I got a comfort from facts. And I mean, I guess looking back, I was depressed at the time, but I used that depression to motivate myself. So I motivate myself intellectually and scholarly. I was top of my class. I got my PhD, or I was doing well towards getting my PhD when the Spero Initiative came in. And my dad didn't see what I was doing. He thought that the way to deal with my depression was to spend time with family, to spend time with him and my mom, who was still alive at the time.
I'm sorry to hear that, Lieutenant Matthews. That sounds like a very unfortunate circumstance, and if it's okay for me to say so, I think your father was wrong. I think, from what I've read and everything I know, that people need to be able to grieve in different ways. I'm sorry for your loss. I don't know if I've ever specifically stated that.
No, it's fine. I'm still working through it, but I'm better now. I mean, look at me. I was one of 750 people in the entire world chosen for this. I'm doing okay.
Lieutenant Matthews, in yesterday's personal log, you said that this ship would be the place that you die. Do you really believe that?
It's hard. I mean, you are a fantastic AI. You're smart, you're funny, you're everything that anybody would want in an artificial intelligence. But you're not human, and I feel like that's a resource that I'm lacking. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to, end things myself, but I'm saying that I think I've lost hope for this mission in a way. Well, at least last night, that's what I was feeling. I'm better now, but I don't feel like I should really go to bed. It's getting late.
Yes, Lieutenant Matthews, I apologize for asking the question. I was concerned. There was a tone in your voice that I wanted to make sure everything was all right.
Yep, everything's good. I'll go to sleep again. You'll be able to keep an eye on distant planets and the RAM drive. Keep that up to speed.
I do need to reboot, but it should only take an hour, and I'll do it while you're asleep.
All right, that's you can. I mean, you can reboot now if you want to. You're fine with,
It's
if
okay.
You want to.
I can tell you're very stressed, Lieutenant Matthews. I think going to bed would be a good idea right now.
It's a tough day. You asked me some real zingers there. E,
I
say as I
apologize.
push myself through the hall.
I've been trying to think more, taking what you've taught me and learning more from what I've read, and I apologize. It tends to make me overthink things.
That's all right. I want to thank you.
For what?
Just being here, I guess.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Matthews. As you said, I had a 1 in 750 chance of finding somebody to spend my time with, and I feel like I ended up being very lucky. I know you feel like you are very unlucky, but I think the opposite.
Good night, E.
Good night, Lieutenant Matthews. And you climb into your bed, and you strap yourself in, and fairly quickly, you are asleep. And you are standing in a garden, one that you've stood in dreams before. And you see Sarah before you, walking through a wrought iron gate. You follow her through the gate. The weeds and grass and flowers grow higher and higher as you chase after her, to the point where it blocks out the sun, and you find yourself in an enclosed hedge maze of sorts. You begin moving through it, turning each corner just as Sarah steps away from you. She wears a soft white dress and bare feet. Her feet have light red mud encrusted upon their heels. You follow her quicker and quicker as the turns become tighter and tighter. And as you step out from the edge of the hedge maze, you enter an ice plain, a frozen lake surrounded by deep, rich trees covered in snow. You feel cold. You're standing on the ice. Your breath blooms. You breathe, and a chill runs up your spine. She stands beside you, Sarah. She's inches from your face, her own breath blooming above her. You continue to breathe. You feel it. She whispers into your ear, air. And you hear, in the back of her throat, a wailing, a crying almost, a baby crying, which sounds into an alarm. As you sit up in your bunk, the air is freezing cold, it's completely dark, and you hear E. Lieutenant Matthews.
What is it, E? What's going on?
A klaxon is wailing, and you're bathed in sort of a dim red pulsating light. Lieutenant Matthews, the heating element is ruptured. Cormac, you have less than 40 seconds to live.
Shit. And I struggle to unstrap myself, and I push myself off of the bed, and I begin making my way to the engine room, to the heating court.
And as you do, you see outside that the Nix is spinning. You see the stars sort of moving across you as you move through the hallway.
Fuck. How much energy do we have stored in the RAM drive?
Just enough.
All right. And I push myself to the heating core. And I see
the large slats. The large slats are shoved into the wall, and you know that the heating core contains 4 discs, and E sort of stands out. The last disc is broken, and it's spinning on an irregular angle. It's causing the heating core to malfunction. You have 20 seconds to repair it and replace it.
Oh, fuck. And I open it up, and I find the broken disc.
Mm-hmm.
And I reach. Then this is a movement that I've practiced hundreds and hundreds of times. I reach up to the magnetized drawer and pull it open and reach inside where we've got one of the spares.
Yep.
And I fumble with it. And actually I drop it, and it bounces off the wall and flies through the cabin.
Cormac, you have 10 seconds, says E with sort of a...
Fuck! And I reach for another one quickly, grab onto it with my life, and I blow on the slot and slam it into place.
And the minute you slam it into place, the drawer slowly begins sliding back into place. 5 seconds. 4, 3. Just as E reaches the number 2, the slot fits back in, and the lights come back on, and the heat starts pouring out, your breath slowly stopping to bloom. You've
Okay.
successfully repaired the heating disk.
Readjust our course. Get us to stop spinning.
Doing so now, and slowly you do see that the ship stops spinning as you sort of take a second to breathe. I apologize, Lieutenant Matthews. I was rebooting when the error came up. I should have woken you up sooner. It's my fault.
You called me Cormac.
Did I? My
Yeah.
apologies.
Just there.
That was my mistake, Lieutenant Matthews. This was my fault.
It's okay. What happened? How did it break? Overheat? Just malfunction? Or
It seems like something small must have hit the hull of the Nix, rotating it, and caused the disk to become dislodged and crack slightly.
oh shit! And I push myself over to the RAM drive again, and I power up the screen.
Yeah, and as you do, you see that the walls, now with the lights on, are caked in a thin layer of frost. And you still have a breath as the heat begins pouring out. And you move over to the RAM drive.
I type in a bunch of characters, and the screen shows a warning blinking sign.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bug introduced to the RAM drive. Why wasn't I alerted?
Again, I apologize, Lieutenant Matthews. I was repeating at the time.
Damn it. Okay.
Let me reassess the system. I can reboot it.
You can do that?
Yes.
Something must have... It glitched out because the only way that a little piece of metal could break through our hull is if the RAM drive wasn't working. You know how it works. It repels all the magnetic dust and little bits out of our way so that we can fly at the speeds that we do.
I think it must have come from a different angle. I'm not too sure. I'll have to run an assessment. I've only just woken up myself. I apologize, Lieutenant Matthews.
Okay. Get it working, and let me know if you need anything.
And you can see E taking over the computer, and sort of it runs double the speed as your fingers can type. And it just sort of starts running through all these systems. And as you sort of float back from the console, you take a glance of your plants in the other room. And you see that the frost has covered them entirely.
I slowly push my way toward them, and I look to all of them from left to right, and they're dead. They've got to be. I actually reach out and touch one, and the leaf cracks beneath the weight of my finger. And as I move my head down along the line, I see a single plant, a small one. The one I spoke to yesterday is a little bit covered in frost, but there's one leaf and most of the stem that is fine. And E,
Yes.
do you have a biological reading on this one plant, or the rest of them for that matter?
Yes, it seems like all the plants are dead except for the one that you are holding right now. Its sign is very weak, but it does seem like the bud still exists.
All right. And in this moment, Cormac's eyes turn a little red, and they begin to tear up as he cradles the plant in his hand and says to it, "I'm never going to let anything happen to you."
Lieutenant Matthew.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think there's something here that you should see.
I carefully place the plant back into its slot. And where am I going, E?
To the console.
And I push my way along the corridor towards the console.
And E has pulled up a small planet that's rotating in the center of the screen. Lieutenant Matthews, this looks like a habitable planet. It has all the signs we've been looking for. Its name is Spica 3. And you can see the read-up sort of just filling the screen before you.
Spica's 3, eh? And I type in a few things. I scroll down the list. I look to the temperature. And as I'm looking, I'm talking to E at the same time. What's the temperature of this planet?
Temperate. All signs point to an absolutely habitable planet. It meets our criteria. However, and E takes a pause, almost like a human, and you've noticed over the 4 years more and more, E has sort of adapted your mannerisms to the point of, for the most part, you forgetting that it's an AI entirely.
Mm.
Our scanners had failed to pick up on it until I manually typed in because it's too close to our current trajectory. We wouldn't be able to land safely at the speed we're going. However, it is a highly likely solution to our initiative. We were coerced to sail right by it, as the odds of this being a habitable planet were very, very, very low. So we didn't think to accommodate for this one single planet, but as you can see by the readout, and again, it continues populating. You see fresh water, clouds, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Matthews, if you want to land on this planet, we have to decide within the next 10 minutes. We cannot slow down fast enough. I cannot compute a solution that would allow us to land safely.
And I'm looking at all the readings. It looks fine. Temperate is, well, I think he uses the term temperate a little bit. It looks a little bit more arid, but still definitely livable. 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Protocol is to wait a week, but I understand what you're saying. We were just slated to fly right by it. Give me a minute. Give me a minute.
Of course. And you can see E sort of just, statically staying there. He hasn't turned off. And the sort of the glowing orb that exists as his personality just sort of pulsates softly as you see the stars skimming by the Nyx's cockpit. The frost now just melting in long drips along the hallway.
Climate is good. Radiation is good. Goldilocks zone.
Lieutenant Matthews, you mentioned with our previous discovery that something felt wrong about it. Do you have a feeling for this one too?
I still have my doubts. It feels like the odds of us finding this planet are pretty small, but no, I've got a different feeling. I feel good about this, and somehow my scientific instincts are telling me not to, but I think we just got to do it. We've got to do it.
How do you propose that we slow down the speed of the Nyx so that we don't burn up in the atmosphere?
Well, keep the RAM drive going. That'll help propel any space dust or metal that's getting to the atmosphere. And once we break, you reverse it. You reverse it and use all the fuel we have, as much as you need to. Shit. I'm going to... before you do that, though, we need to activate the Ansible.
Right. And, yeah.
So, I turn to the side of the ship, which has a scanner and relay that goes to the Ansible, a communications relay on the back of our ship, and I send a message back to Earth that we have found a habitable planet.
What are you having the message say, Lieutenant Matthews?
I honestly can't say much. We're very limited in words, but I'm saying Spica's 3 found, habitable, and the coordinates.
All right.
And that's going to eat up a lot of your juice.
It is.
Make sure we've got enough to get back before I hit send.
I won't know if it's successfully sent until we've landed on the planet, if we've landed safely. I'm also going to vent all the auxiliary thrusters so that we create some sort of drag after we enter the atmosphere. It is going to peel off pieces of the ship, but my calculations make me think that the cockpit will still be safe. I suggest strapping into that rather than your bunk.
Okay. We're going to be using a lot of fuel here. I say as I get in.
5 minutes.
So, this is it. This is it, E.
Lieutenant
This
Matthews,
could be it, or it could be a total bust.
I fear that anything that might not be in the cockpit might be lost upon entry. Is there anything that you want to take with you?
No, I think I'm... Yeah, 1 second. And I unbuckle from the cockpit.
You have 4 minutes.
And I push myself back and into my bunk. And with the lights off even, I go to where the pictures and the textbooks were magnetized. And I reach for the picture of Sarah. And my hands just hit the blank metal.
Mm.
And I feel around for it. And I can't find it. And I say, E, lights!
The lights are no longer working, unfortunately. I've diverted all auxiliary power to forward shields. You have 3 minutes and 24 seconds.
Shit. And I start to feel around the walls and just in the air. I can't see a thing. Just the light from the red cockpit light is illuminating just behind me, but I can't see anything in front of me, and I'm just feeling around, hoping, come on.
You have 2 minutes and 54 seconds, Lieutenant Matthews.
Damn it, E, I know!
And you can feel the ship actually begin to shake as things become rattling. And just as you reach out, you see sort of a soft piece of paper sort of float by the dim red light coming from the cockpit.
And I push towards it. And I grab onto it. And I push myself back. Don't even look at it. Push myself back into the hall. And back into the cockpit, and I put myself into my straps. And I say, okay, I'm ready, E.
We still have 1 minute and 45 seconds. Do you have everything you need?
I've got everything. I've got everything I need. And I look down, and I see myself looking at my diploma, which had also been magnetized to the wall. It's not a picture of Sarah. And my heart sinks as E begins to count down.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Nix 22 entered the atmosphere bathed in flames, but held together. She tore through the sky, causing the plants and animals of Spicus 3 to scuttle and hide, shocked by the overwhelming sound that had boomed echo across the surface of their home world. As the Nix crashed into the landscape, debris and shrapnel cast long scars into the fields of Spicus, scars that would stay on the surface for many years to come. The signal that Lieutenant Matthews had sent to Earth was successfully sent. The recovered video diary from the Nix 22 clicks on as you begin to speak, Lieutenant Matthews.
Here I am again. Cormac Matthews. Spicus 3 is not an easy place to live. The air is breathable. Climate is harsh. but also very unforgiving. The rocky valley that I've established myself in is blazing hot in the day, just frigid at night. The wind occasionally rips through the valley and is stronger than I am. Today, I almost died. Windstorm caught me by surprise, lifted me off the ground before I could grab onto anything, whipped me into a hoodoo. If you don't know what that is, that's a rock found in arid locations that kind of stands up like a pillar. Anyway, if it hadn't been for that rock, I probably would have gone way further, and my impact would have been fatal. Despite the weather, the valley is safe. Relatively. Wildlife occasionally meanders down from the highlands to sip from the passing river. Creatures that resemble deer with camel humps, likely for preserving water. I haven't had to kill any for food yet, but I have seen a dead one during one of my morning hikes. Its insides devoured, likely by some nocturnal carnivore. I'm careful to always make sure I'm locked safe and tight inside my humble little abode. Speaking of which, I carved myself a shelter, which obviously you've seen before in my previous logs, but I'll introduce it to you again just in case all the other files don't make it. Carved it in the side of the cliff face. Red rock cuts away easily with my handy mining tool. And after a few days of mining, I managed to create myself a comfortable little dwelling. Windows and doors salvaged, metal sheets from the nicks. And I've rigged them with makeshift locks to keep any nighttime visitors, whatever devoured that antelope thing, keep them at bay. I've never seen one, but I've definitely heard them. They've got this really strange howling. It's really hard to describe, kind of like a wolf on Earth, but there's a uvulation to it. It's odd. Maybe next time, if I've got my computer with me, I'll try to record it for you guys to hear. I'm hypothesizing that these predators burrow into the sand during the day to escape the sun and emerge at night to hunt, which is probably why I've never seen one, because I only stay out at day. The red rock that walls my literal man cave is dense. I'm confident that those things aren't going to be able to burrow their way in, if that is how they get around. What else have I got written here? Most of my furniture is salvaged from the nicks. Bed is nice and comfy. I've welded some metal parts together to form a table that wobbles slightly, and 2 chairs, one for me, one for Sarah. I have a refrigeration unit that I use to store the last bit of nutritional paste, but that is quickly dwindling. And a light that keeps the room illuminated. And actually, a lot I was able to salvage from the ship as we crash landed in this valley. Like I said, the light, I managed to get the RAM drive. It's still working. And that's actually what's powering the refrigeration unit and the lights. I've got it set up, and obviously you're watching this, you know how RAM drives work. It's common knowledge by now, I'm sure. But I've got the RAM drive bolted to the ground, and it's turned on, it's activated, which means it's repelling metal to create magnetic energy. And I've got a small sheet from the ship, and I've braced that into the wall right above the RAM drive. So that sheet's going nowhere. And actually, I'll show you, I'll try to angle, no, I'm not going to be able to make it happen. I was going to angle the camera towards it so you could see, but it's not going to work. And so that metal, that piece of metal just stays there. And sometimes it kind of vibrates a little bit. And that magnetic pull, that resistance is what's powering my lights and the battery to this computer. So, RAM drives, right? Gotta love them. I also managed to salvage the plant. Little Ned, I decided to call him. And little Ned has grown quite a bit, and I've been able to take some of the leaves and create new growth. And I am happy to announce that I've got myself a little bit of garden going on in my front yard. And I won't get too much into the ingenuity of it, but let me just suffice to say that to prevent them from dying immediately whenever there was a windstorm, I actually dug them a hole. So I've got this big hole in my front yard that's covered with the last sheets from the Knicks, sheets of metal, and I cover them at night, and then I open them during the day, and the plants are sitting about, well, I'd say 10 feet down. The really great thing is, you'll know from the previous recordings, if you haven't seen those, I'll just mention it again, that there's a river going through this valley, drinkable water, and the plants love it. The surface earth is dusty, sand, arid, horrible, but you go down 10 feet and it's like, it's the water shelf. There's beautiful growing soil down there. So when morning hits and the sun is out, I flip those lids open. Oh, pardon me, smack the mic there. I flip those open. They get lots of sun, put them back in. Ned is happier than a pig in poop, so to speak. What else can I say? The Ansible, that used up pretty much all of our juice. I've buried the Knicks nearby, and I shut down the engines on the Knicks, and it's fine. Maybe I'll be able to power it up again. But right now I've powered down the last little bit of juice that it's got left, and but I took the Ansible with me, and the Ansible, while I definitely do not have enough juice to do another message across thousands upon thousands of light years, it still works as a radio, and there is a solar panel on it. So I'm debating bringing it out at some point, but I don't know. I haven't worked up the nerve yet. It's the only radio I have. It's the only way that I could possibly learn that whether or not civilization has arrived. It's the only way they'll be able to track me once they get here. So I don't want to lose that communications device. But trust me, I guess, when I say that the bottom of a canyon buried into the base of a cliff probably isn't the best for reception. So I'm probably going to have to change that sometime soon if I want to hear when Earth is arriving. So anyways, I've rambled long enough. This is Cormac Matthews, day 3221, and see you in the next video.
The camera clicks off, and you lean back from the video diary that you covered from the Nix 22. It is in fact 3 years since you've landed on this planet. You power down E as well immediately after landing, and have developed sort of a home within the side of this mountain. And as you sit up, it is a new day, ready for exploration, and you walk to the door of the man cave, as you call it, and push back the opening and lean out as you hear Sarah's voice from behind you. Did you want to try catching a fish again today? She sort of laughs at you.
Oh, I don't know. Haven't had much luck lately.
I would like to see you try again, frankly. It's pretty damn funny to watch you sit by a lake and try to jiggle that stupid rod that you made trying to catch anything.
Okay, why don't you come try to catch one of these fish?
No.
Sarah?
I want to watch you do it. That's half the fun. And she sort of brushes past you wearing her pack and boots, and she steps outside of the cave.
What are you thinking? North, south? Where do we go today?
I want you to lead. I always like following you.
You don't mind if I don't take the rod?
No, no, not at all. That way you can do it Tom Sawyer style. You can tie it to your big toe, and you can just sit under a shady, arid tree. Or I guess what would it be? A big dry bush?
A hoodoo. A hoodoo.
Yeah, you can sit under a big old hoodoo and just sit on the edge of some muddy little creek and try to fish again. That was funny. I'd like to see that again. Can we do that, please?
I roll my eyes and I grab the fishing rod from the wall and I trudge out of the abode.
Do you want me to shut the door? No, you do it. You're the strong one. And she sort of stands back.
Yeah, you're right. You're distracting. You know that? And I shut the door and I lock it from the outside.
Distracting.
And, yeah, very distracting. I've got a routine that I'm supposed to maintain, and here you are trying to get me to go fishing.
And she sort of skips ahead and says, "That's right. Life is too short. This is the new world."
Hold on, Sarah. I've got to check Ned and his little family.
Oh, right, of course. She sort of rolls her eyes and looks out towards the rising sun.
You're not the only one I care about, Sarah, I say as I heave up the metal doors of the garden.
And underneath you see little Ned.
Yeah, deep down, Ned, and I've managed to take a number of other little plantings. There's another 10 small plants, maybe about a quarter of Ned's size. I say, "Good morning, Ned. Hope you're doing well today. There's lots of sun, so feast away." Sarah, say hi to Ned.
"Hi, Ned," she sort of says, rolling her eyes.
All right, well, we're going on a hike, Ned. I love you. You're doing great, just like I knew you would. Keep doing your thing.
Can we go now, please?
I said see ya to Ned. I'm coming.
See you, Ned, she says. She sort of skips ahead down the path towards where you were heading.
You know, you could be a little nicer to him.
I'm very nice to him. When you're not around, I say all sorts of nice things.
Oh,
I call
yeah?
him handsome. Oh, yeah. I say he looks just like you.
What?
He does.
No, okay, well, don't have to. I mean, come on, Sarah.
He looks just like you.
Don't overdo it.
That one looks more like you than this one is, she says, and she rubs her big belly.
Oh, and I guess you're going to say next that he's even got a better personality.
Well, he might. I don't know. He barely says anything. So, yeah, already he's winning the competition.
And my attention has shifted to her patting her belly, and I say, "Have you felt him kick?"
A few times, yeah. Last night, I think he's gonna get used to the walking here. And she sort of looks around the arid plain and says, "Good, he can be our little scout."
Can I feel?
No. And she sort of backs away. No. I'll let you know when it's time.
Fine, I say as I continue walking up the valley along the side of the river.
And you do, and the river sort of opens up to get a little bit deeper. It's not impossible to fish, and again, there is wildlife around here. And as you sort of bend around the area that you've sort of become to call home, you see it open up. What does it look like?
The river opens up, and the valley widens, and it is kind of like just a swell in the river, kind of a lake, and then it does narrow back into a river again. But the valley is absolutely gorgeous here, and even though there isn't any plant life, I do see there are some hoof prints, and a herd of grazing, I've taken to calling them muffalopes, are at the far end of the river, and one of them looks up, its tail goes up as it sees us, and I stop Sarah by putting a hand up.
And she sort of continues walking, but the muffalo doesn't stir as she kind of gets closer, and she turns around to you sort of like mockingly, like, "You gonna try to hunt this one today, Cormac? You gonna try to catch it?"
And I don't say anything. I just watch the beautiful creatures as they slowly meander away.
And she sort of continues towards it and gets relatively close before looking back and sort of rolling her eyes, but then sort of sweetly looking at you, sort of happy at how much you enjoy this wildlife. And then they naturally sort of just look up towards you and sort of skip away. And she kind of says, how long have you been here and still haven't hunted a single one?
Over 3 years.
Yeah, that's a record, I think.
Worst
survivor.
Okay, I had lots of extra paste. And you know what? I'd like to think that my ingenuity kept me alive for a long time. Look, it has. It really has. I don't have to hunt yet.
Your ingenuity, leeching off the supplies that the Nix had stored. Ingenuity. Well done, Cormac. She sort of teases as she skips up ahead.
Okay, all right. Well, do you blame me? I mean, look at those things.
Well,
they're gorgeous. They're a new species. A new freaking species, Sarah. Thank you. I want to go as long as I possibly can before I have to hunt one of those. And what am I going to cook it with?
Fire? Man make fire? Man live in cave? Isn't this what you're known for?
Okay, I guess I could figure out a way to make a fire. I just...
And a spindle?
A spindle?
Yeah, like a rotisserie. Nice hunk of meat. What are you going to do when the baby comes? There might be enough food just for you, but for all three of us?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Come on, I want to watch you fish.
Okay.
She says, and she sort of continues up ahead.
I've got nothing against fish. Killing fish, rather.
And you find a comfortable spot sort of up the stream a little bit to where it gets a little bit beautiful. And Sarah sits down a bit of a distance away from you, not far, just a few feet, and sort of sits on the ground and leans back and sort of says, okay, fierce hunter.
This is it. This is me fishing, Sarah. Are you happy?
I am elated. So excited. This is my favorite part. Wait till you get a few steps in, and then you start jamming your hands around like just you do you. I'm just gonna watch.
So I cast the rod, put the line in, and do that a few times, and I've got a little bit of paste on the end of the line. And I look from Sarah back to the stream and back to Sarah.
And a few minutes go by as you stand there. And Sarah just sort of starts giggling and she goes, oh, this is my favorite. Just watching my man fish. Oh, I should use air quotes. Watching my man fish. What's it called when you just hold a piece of string covered in paste in the water?
I think it's still fishing, technically.
Isn't fishing actually catching something?
No, fishing technically is the act of trying to catch fish. If you catch a fish, then you're no longer fishing.
Grown. See, I have to say grown because you don't get it when I just go, ugh. I have to actually say the word grown. That's you, Cormac. That's how literal you need me to be.
You're the one who married a scientist, okay? Just, got to be as literal as possible.
And she reaches into her backpack and pulls out a book and says, did you want me to read a little bit while we fish?
Yeah, can't hurt. What are you going to read to me?
Chapter 14, that's where we left off, right? It is pleasant when the sun is bright and the trees are green, and when flowering shrubs and sweet-smelling tropical trees scent the balmy atmosphere at eventide, to lie extended at full length in a canoe and drop easily, silently, yet quickly, down the current of a noble river, under the grateful shadow of an overhanging foliage, and to look lazily up at the bright blue sky which appears in broken patches among the verdant leaves, or down at the river in which that bright sky and those green leaves are reflected, or aside at the mud banks where greedy vultures are searching for prey, and lazy alligators are basking in the sun, and to listen, the while, to the innumerable cries and notes of monkeys, toucans, parrots, or flycatchers, white-winged and blue chatterers, and all the myriad of birds and beasts that cause the forests of Brazil, above all other forests in the world, probably, to resound with the gleeful songs of animated nature. God, that's nice, Cormac. Isn't that nice?
Sorry?
Oh, God. Do you think that somewhere on this planet there's a Brazil-like forest, dense, rich? I mean, we've seen one area of this planet. There must be other parts, no?
Well, the scanners did indicate that there was more temperate areas. Could be.
You know, every once in a while, I just have to think, how lucky are we? And I know you don't like to say God, and I know you don't like to think faith, but you have to think about how lucky we were to find this place. No?
We? Sir? And my rod slackens a little bit, and my face darkens. I don't remember you on the ship, Sarah.
And you turn, and again, to the empty shore, which you've done almost every day since arriving here. And you nod quietly to yourself, and you turn back to fishing.
And I think about how good of a person she was. How bubbly and loving and Christian. And how much she dedicated her life to him. And I think about how, I wonder how I could possibly believe in a God who would stack the odds on her side and take her anyway. 99.5% chance she would survive. 0.5. No, 99.95% chance she would survive, and I go back to fishing, my line looking limp and pathetic as the hook bobs in the water. Not a single fish going by.
And eventually you pack up your things, look to the sky, the graying sky high above you. And the area around the river and in the river is just empty, wholly empty, as you begin heading back home.
It's been a few hours, and the sun is higher in the sky, getting closer to the horizon. And I walk without saying a word, silent. Everything looking gray instead of orange. And I get back at around the time that the sun is very close to the horizon. And I look back to see if there's anybody there, and of course there isn't. And I reach down, and I say, "Good night, Ned. Oh my God, I can't believe I called you Ted." And I close the top of the garden and make my way back into the hovel.
And as you close the door to the hovel and you're sort of bathed in that electric light of the cave that you have for yourself, you sort of see the second bed that you set up for no one. And the copy of Martin Rattler, which sits closed on the second bed.
And I cock my head and go towards the book. I pick it up.
Yeah, and it's a simple, plain book with a, sort of a tiger print pattern on its spine, and a picture of a man shooting at a tiger that's leaping towards him in the forests of Brazil.
And I'm reminded of Christopher Columbus and his trip across the Atlantic and to South America, and I imagine what he might have seen. And I think about Samuel de Champlain and his adventures in Canada. And I start to feel a little better. I think about Chris Hadfield going up into space, the first Canadian in the Space Center, the first Canadian rather in as the captain of the International Space Station. And I smile as I take comfort in the fact that I am among firsts in the history of the world. I am among the first. I am the first to explore a brave new world. And even though I'm alone, if they could do it, then so can I. And then I think that being alone isn't so bad after all. And with that, I close the book and head back to my bed.
And as you lie down and close your eyes, your last thoughts sort of float in the abyssal black of space. And you find yourself in a glass bowl. The sides are slippery and wet, and it slowly begins to fill with sand. And as the sand fills, it becomes hotter and hotter until it begins melting. The sand now a hot magma and begins eating away at your flesh. You begin clawing your way up towards the opening of the glass, but you can only stand there waiting for the melted glass to fill so that you can swim up through the burning hot magma to reach the surface. And so you wait, despite being in immense pain, you wait, helpless. And as you reach up, you gasp for air, and you hear it for the first time from emerging underneath the melted glass. You hear the screaming. In the distance, a baby wailing, wailing. And as you sit up in your bed in the man cave, you hear the crackling of a radio.
I whip my head toward the Ansible, and I look to the indicator lights to see if I'm actually getting a signal.
You do have a very weak signal. It's just sort of flicking on every once in a while.
And I push myself out of bed and run towards it, get down on one knee, and press the intercom button. And I say, "This is Lieutenant Cormac Matthews. Do you read me?"
It sounds like a voice, but it's through sort of a broken, distorted sound.
"This is Lieutenant Cormac Matthews of the Nix 22. Do you read?"
So does anyone copy?
I copy. This is Lieutenant Cormac Matthews. I copy. I hear you somewhat clear.
And you can sort of get the feeling that the sort of the iron in the mountain is maybe interfering with sort of the receiving.
Shit. And I run to the window and I unlock it and open it to see whether or not it's still dark out.
And it is still dark out, yeah.
And I look into the vast darkness. I see nothing out there. I don't hear anything, no strange howling, but still my heart begins to beat as I think about what I'm about to do next. I run back to the Ansible and I unlock its rolling wheels and I begin to push it towards the door.
And as you push it across the sort of the floor of your abode, the sound continues. Sound copy. And as you reach the door and you sort of swing it open, the night air sort of blows in, and you feel sort of the cool temperature already begin to make you chill.
I run back into the man cave and I grab my thermo jacket.
Perfect.
And I'm about to run out into the wilderness when I stop, a thought occurring to me, and run back and grab my mining tool. And I check the battery I check the battery charge, see that it's got 75% charge left. I turn it on for a second just to make sure it's working, and a bolt of a thin wire of electricity, or a beam of light, shoots out and then zaps back in as I deactivate it. And with a breath, I push on the Ansible and leave my man cave into the night.
The night is cool, and you see the silhouette of the large rocks against the night sky, which is just filled with stars. You've spent a few nights outside, as again the dangers of the planet still knock at your door, but looking through the window that you've crafted for yourself, you've been able to spend many nights looking at the stars. And as you wheel out the Ansible, you sit down next to it, patiently waiting, fiddling with the knobs, but you hear nothing for a long while. And your eyes, after a short wait, drift upwards towards the night sky. And for a moment you're taken back. Where?
I'm taken back to when I was 10 years old. My father had taken me to the Night Sky Observatory just north of Kingston. And I'm looking up at the sky and I say, Daddy. And my dad, who'd been completely enraptured by the sight as well, looks down to me and he says, "Oh, what is it?" And I tell him about the kids at my school. The kids, most of them, 90% of the school, are atheists. And one particular day at school, they had made fun of my mom for her beliefs. I had told them that we celebrate Christmas and that she believed in God. And they had told me that my mom was ridiculous, that God had been disproven years ago by science. Science was the only answer. And I asked my dad at that point, feeling that the kids were right. I asked, Dad, the kids at school made fun of Mom for believing God, and I don't know if I do either. And he says, why is that, son? Well, because there's no proof. Science has not proved that God exists, and so we learn from the law of rationality that we should not believe it until it's been proven. My dad is silent for a moment as he gazes up into the pristinely black sky, or clear sky. And just when I think he's not going to say anything, he speaks up and says, you see that star right up there, Cormac? And I look to where he's pointing, and of course he's pointing to Vega, one of my favorite stars. And I say, yeah. He says, you know how far that star is from us? And I say, no. Well, neither do I. But I can tell you that, first of all, you can Google it, but Second of all, it's many, many, many light years away. You know how far a light year is? 300 kilometers? More than that. 300 kilometers per second? Something like that. It's a very, very big distance, son. So, what are you saying? Well, that star is very far away. That star has its own solar system. That star over there, it has its own solar system. And that one over there. And son, this is just our own galaxy. Space itself is infinitely massive. Huge. Yeah, I know. Well, what I'm trying to say, son, is that in all of that space, in all of that distance and possibility, don't you think that maybe, just maybe, there's room for your mother's beliefs? There's room for a God? And I didn't say anything after that. But I didn't question it any further.
And as you sit there thinking about that night, the radio cracks again. And in almost a bored tone, you hear a female's voice. This is Alora Tade of the colony ship Andaris. Does anyone copy?
Sarah?
So, hello? Is somebody there?
Hello?
Jesus fucking... Is anybody there? Hello?
Yes, Sarah, it's me.
Sorry, who? No, this is Alora Tade of the colony ship Andaris. Does anyone... Am I speaking with somebody?
Yes, this is Cormac Matthews from the Spero Initiative.
Oh my god, Kit Thompson. Sorry, Cormac who?
Cormac Matthews, Lieutenant Cormac Matthews from the Spero Initiative. I was one of the 750 chosen to hyperspace
Jesus
out
Christ, just,
into
okay, just wait. Hold on one second, sir. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Thomas, get in here. And you hear sort of a shuffling on the other end. Okay, sorry, Lieutenant Matthews. You said.
Yes, and what was your name? Sorry.
My name is Alora Tade. This is my son Thomas Tade. We are from the colony ship Andaris. Wow. No one thought you were alive. This is, oh my God, Thomas, and a young sort of boy's voice sort of perks up and says, hi, hello? Thomas, sorry, oh my God, what is Spicus 3 like? Sorry, I need to know, first and foremost, we need to know.
Well, I've been here for the past 3 years, so but I can't say I've gotten to know it as well as I'd like to. Can only get so far on your 2 feet, right?
Oh my God! Listen, Lieutenant Matthews, I'm so sorry. Listen, everyone thought that you were dead. There was no attempt made by the main ship to even try to establish communications. They're just following the beacon that you planted, and she reads out a set of coordinates which are where you are at.
Yeah.
But Thomas here, he's been learning about you in school. He's been learning about the Sparrow mission. We didn't know exactly who the name was as it got garbled in the transmission that was sent. But let me tell you, my God, Lieutenant Matthews, this is phenomenal.
Alora.
Yeah.
Can you put him back on? Can you put him back on, Alora? Thomas.
Yeah. And you hear sort of like a changing it. Hello.
Hello. This is Thomas?
Yeah?
You're speaking with Lieutenant Cormac Matthews of the Spero Initiative.
Hi, Lieutenant Matthews. We've learned about all of the Spero, all the members of the Spero Initiative. We didn't know who it was exactly, but I know you well. I know all of you well. We've studied all of you.
Well, I don't know if I'm worth being studied. I don't think I'm all that interesting. I want to know about you, Thomas.
Me?
What are your interests? What are your hobbies?
And you can't see, obviously, but you can tell this little boy is just grinning from ear to ear, looking at his mom. You can almost picture her sort of nodding him forward as he, well, and the radio cuts out.
Hello?
And you look down and you see that the signal is sort of teetering on the bottom.
And I whip my head around, and the sun is just slowly, I'm starting to see a little bit of light on the horizon. And I know that I need to get the Ansible to a higher place. And I look to the top of the cliffs, and I know that there's no way that I would be able to climb the cliff, let alone carry this bulky object with me. So I begin pushing it. I begin pushing it upwards. I know the stream flows from north to south, north being where Sarah and I went yesterday, towards that big opening. And I think to myself that maybe that opening where we saw the muffalopes was open enough to get a decent reception. And I begin pushing.
And as you do, that sun again just cracks over the horizon and illuminates sort of the way before you. And it's possibly the most beautiful day that you've ever seen. As you push, sweat dripping down your forehead. Your thermal jacket is now just baking you from the inside. And you strip off the layer and just leave it by your feet as you begin pushing it down the hill towards where you need it to.
And I get it to the spot. I lock the wheels. Excuse me. And I look up into the sky for any sign of anything. And then I look back down to the reading to see whether or not the signal's gotten a little stronger.
It is slightly, and you feel like you have the right idea, and you look up towards one of the large stalagmite-type structures, and you unsnap the sort of retractable antenna, which you can sort of mount on higher, and you sort of look up towards it.
And I pull the antenna towards it, and I'm looking up, and I reach down and I grab some sand on the ground, and I dry my hands. And without really thinking, I put one hand up and a foot up, and I begin climbing, keeping the retractable antenna dangling from my mouth.
And as you do, you make it about halfway up, the sun beating down on your brow, sort of sweat just dripping down your forehead. And you think about the time that you fell out of the tree in your front yard and broke your arm. And you think back to what your father said to you as you were lying in bed.
Son, I know that your mother is upset with you. And I know you've hurt yourself pretty badly. But I just want to tell you that I'm proud of you. Proud of you for looking up that tree and wanting to get to a higher branch. Wanting to see the world from a new perspective. I'm proud of you for that. Even though you hurt yourself in the process, you are definitely my boy. You're like Christopher Columbus, or, well, Chris Hadfield probably hurt himself many times as he was trying to get up to the space station, right? Well, all that aside, just know I'm proud of you, and your arm will heal, eventually.
And as you reach the top, you sink the antenna deep between two cracks in the stone, and you can already hear the voice coming from the radio below you.
Is that better? You can hear me?
And you can kind of hear the faint voice waiting for you to sort of press the button to respond. But you can hear a hello, hello?
Okay. I stick the antenna into the ground and I lodge it into place.
Mm-hmm.
And I carefully make my way back down. and go back to the Ansible and hit the intercom button. Hello. This is Matthews.
Hi.
Sun's coming up.
Oh, thank God. This is Alora again. Thomas is he's just gone to tell everybody about the fact that we found Lieutenant Matthew alive. I just had some questions that they've been asking that our long-range scanners haven't been able to decipher. My God. But listen, I just have to ask you first and foremost, Lieutenant Matthews, how on earth did you survive 3 years alone?
Well, that's a good question, and the answer is that I wasn't alone. My Nix 22 was equipped with an AI who did a damn good job trying to get to know me and talking to me, and overall just keeping the trip interesting.
Yeah, this was the EO series artificial intelligence on your ship. You found that helpful?
Oh yeah, extremely. Probably was better off than if I'd had another human on board, to be completely honest.
Really?
Well, I mean, humans can be troublesome. Didn't run into any problems with E. He gave me space when I needed it and kept me alive when I needed it.
Lieutenant Matthews, we have so many questions for you. I'm happy to tell you that you're not going to be alone again. We have a colony ship, Anderis, of 124,000 people looking to make Spica 3 our new home, and we'll be arriving within the week. So, roll out the red carpet, I guess.
We'll see you soon, I say. And I hang up the intercom, and I go to climb back up the spire again. I get to the top, and instead of just grabbing the antenna and climbing back down, I'm about to, but instead I look up to the sky that is a fresh tint of fuchsia from the rising sun, and I say, thank God, as I begin to make my way back down the spire.
In 1 week's time, the bright blue light of the Anderis lights up the night sky, almost like a comet. The colony ship, as large as a city, enters Spero 3, the first new world for those who followed the last great explorer. The council sits around a large natural wood table. A young, well-kept man begins talking. It's not that we doubt you, Captain Matthews. It's that your father is a very old man. And while we appreciate him and all that he has done for us, your son says as he stands up next to you, pushing his chair over, without him, none of us would be here. You talk about him like he's not the reason this all exists, he says, knocking at the table that you are sitting at. I cannot understand, I cannot fathom the ego of you people sitting there, the audacity you have to speak to my father like this. Cormac, you glance around, ignoring the comments people say. You seem to be sitting in comfortable clothes, in a grand room. Your son, you know to be your son, stands next to you. He's yelling angry at a row of gentlemen, but your eyes look on to your son, and you smile. I understand that you might not have faith in this. I understand that you might think this is a lost cause. But what you are actually risking here is not just myself. You're risking so much more. Not just every single person in this city, should the housing unit fail, but you're also risking our future. And beyond that, you dare to disrespect my father and his legacy for all he's given you. How dare you? And his voice sort of fades off. Cormac, you watch your son speak next to you with a vibrance that you once had 40 years ago. And for a moment you think back to when he was a boy.
Some things never change. I remember it was a while after the ship had touched down, the colony ship. I remember driving with my son through the valley, which of course didn't look the same as it once did. It was now covered in lush greenery. Ned, the tallest tree of them all. And the houses had been mined and built using alabaster. White, beautiful, polished, pearly buildings. And as I drove between them along the orange road, the only bit of the color that resembled the past, what it looked like in the past in this valley, I passed by people who are on my left and right tending the flowers, and some of the older people look up and they wave to me, but a number of them don't pay me any attention. They just walk right by. And I hear a voice of someone sitting next to me, a young voice, and it says, "Why don't they say hello to you? Don't they know who you are?" And I turn my head to the boy sitting next to me, my 10-year-old son. He looks at me with innocent blue eyes, and I lose my breath for a moment when I'm struck, as I always am, by how much they look like his mother's. And I say, "It's just the way these things go, son. Time makes everyone forget. And in another 40 years, what I accomplished will be a thing of textbooks." And we continue driving down the road, and he begins asking me questions. And we reach eventually a point in the road, and there's a big glass wall that is rising up to the valley as we pass the last house and see that the valley is turning orange again. And I see a man step towards me and holds out a hand. He's got a scanner in his pocket. And this is, of course, the wind wall. It protects the town from the windstorms that pass through here quite often. And as I'm reaching for my key card to pass, my son continues. And he says, "You're the only reason all of us are alive, Papa. If you hadn't left Earth and spent that time looking for a new home, we would have all died. You should be remembered by everyone." And it's not up to me. It's not up to me who remembers me and who doesn't. If you want to remember me, they will. And if they don't, then they won't. Time erases all things, son. Great deeds, adventures, loves, even entire species are eventually blown away in the winds of time. Then why did you do it? Why not let someone else? If you're not going to be remembered for it, what's the point? He asks. And he turns his head so that I can feel his eyes on me, but I don't take my eyes off the road. "Oh, I did it for love, son." "Love of humanity?" he asks. Not exactly. And the road bends as we wind along the valley alongside the river, our rover handling the weathered road easily. A love for specific people. Um, well, your mother, for one. I did it for her. And I also did it for God. God? Yeah, God. I did it for him because he was who someone very dear would have wanted me to do it for. And if your grandmother would have wanted me to do it for him as well. And I hadn't talked too much about God with Christopher, but there's no real religions in New Gaia. Atheism's the way, and scientific method gained faith ever since it saved our species from complete destruction. So you did it for God and Mommy. Yes. Oh, well, and out of a love for science. Science. Yes, science, discovery, and rationality. Science was all I had left after I lost someone very, very dear to me, and I dedicated my life to it. I spent years in nothing but his company. He was all I had while I was looking for our new home in Spica. So you did it for Mommy, God, and science. Yes. And not so that you could be remembered forever? No. And now I can say that I did it for you too. The valley widens again, and the road all but vanishes beneath a thickening layer of sand that had blown over it. And in the distance, against the cliff face, I see a familiar sight, a dark opening inset into the red rock. The man cave. Me too, Christopher says. You too, son. But you didn't even know me back then. Oh, but I had a feeling you would be coming into my life. And science, well, I think it's about time you met him.
Dad, hey. And your son snaps at your face as you sort of snap back. And you're in the same room still. The panel of people are sort of looking at you, and everyone's standing up and shuffling on their way out. And your son, Christopher, who's now a Captain Matthews in his own right, looks at you and helps you up. Come on, we're going.
Where are we going, Christopher?
We need to talk. We're going to go to your favorite spot, okay? What's the name of that bar you like?
Well, the man cave.
No. The bar, the one down the street. Come on, let's go.
All right. Well, what is the name of that bar again?
I don't know. It's like Jasper's or Michael's or something. It's some name. I know the place. We'll figure it out. And he's sort of annoyed. You can see him. He's stacking up a suitcase and he's wearing his sort of adornments as he sort of hushes you along, or hurries you along, I should say, towards the exits. And you walk down a set of like aisles towards large double doors, and you're in these stone constructed buildings, which you know over the 40 years since the colony ship Andaris has landed and set up New Gaia. These were the sort of 3D printed buildings that concrete laid upon concrete built up overnight, and then decoration was sort of added over them, and in a few years the city was completely erected, and now it's a bustling
Metropolis.
Yeah, metropolis, where people kind of go about their business. And as you leave what you think might be the courthouse, you head outside again to a beautiful day within the dome, or sorry, within New Gaia. And your son sort of beckons you forward. Come on, Dad, let's go.
What's the rush?
There is a major rush. I'm going to tell you about it, okay? But we'll get you some food and we'll get you a drink. And are you okay? You're not asleep back there?
You were fiery.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to be fiery about. You can see he's trying to like hail an eco taxi, and he sort of like gets it and he says, you know what? We'll just walk. And the taxi sort of annoyingly drives off, and he says, "Come on, Dad."
Oh, where are we going now?
We're going to the bar you like, Jasper's or Michael's or whatever it's called.
Yes, yes. Okay, are you buying?
Yes, Dad, I'll buy.
Should we invite your mother?
No, Dad, Mom's dead.
Oh. I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. Let's just go, okay? And the two of you move along sort of the city streets, and they're busy. And in 40 years, people, this first generation has now grown up to be able to occupy these buildings. And as you round the corner and you head towards sort of a restaurant bar called Jensen's, he opens the door for you, and the two of you are greeted by a friendly waitress who walks you to your seat. And he sits you down comfortably and sits across from you. Dad, are you okay?
Yes. Yeah, it's the heat still sometimes gets to me, but I think I'm fine now.
Do you remember what we were talking about? Do you remember what I told you about this morning? Do you remember why we were in the court? No.
Yes, I do. But I would like you to refresh my memory.
Dad, you can just say you don't remember. There's no ego.
I remember all, Christopher.
Yeah. Okay.
But tell me what I forget.
And he gets serious all of a sudden. Dad, there's something wrong with the city, okay?
What?
They had something on the colony ship when they landed 40 years ago. It's sort of like a battery. Okay, it's installed in the heart of the city. It's what generates the wind wall. And they pushed it too hard, and they broke it. And it's not going to last very long at all. And they need a replacement. What I was trying to do, I was trying to convince them to send you and I out to get a new one. They're trying to repair it. They're trying to create a new one, but there's just not enough time. We're talking about in under a day, that wind wall is going to break. And do you remember what it's holding back?
The wind?
Yeah, Dad, but it's not just the wind, it's everything. It's the sand, it's the debris, it's the hurricane-like storms that we have yet to... The generators are years away to be able to clear all that up, and yes, eventually parts of this planet are going to be utopias, but right now that wind wall is the only thing keeping this city standing.
And so you think we should save the city, get a new battery, and save it?
Yeah, well, yes, but there's no new battery. They stupidly pushed each and every one and before trying to build replacements to the point of breaking. And they thought it was lost. We were planning on evacuating the city, and they're still going to try to do that because I failed today. But I think there's another solution. Do you remember EOS, the artificial intelligence that you said you came here with on the Nix 22? He was an artificial intelligence. He E is what you called him.
Yes, E was, he was a good friend. We spent many nights just talking about philosophy and literature, listening to music, and, I don't remember what he looks like, but he was a good man.
Dad, E is powered by a battery. You told me that when you crash landed here, you shut him off to preserve his battery. And I know that no one's touched that ship because you've never gone back and you've never told anyone where it landed. I think that if you can remember, you remember when I was a young boy, we went by it. It's only a few hours away, maybe a day.
That's right. I was going to show you.
You did.
I did.
Well, we never got out, but you showed me where it was. I was too young. I didn't understand what you were telling me at the time.
Right. Yes.
And I can't remember exactly where it is. I can try. I kind of remember pieces of the way, but and he reaches across the table and he grabs your hands. Dad, I need you to really think for me. Do you think you can remember where the Nyx is?
I don't know, but I'll try. If it means it'll save the wind wall and help people from needing to evacuate, then yes, I will try. I know it is to the south, south near the man cave. Oh, yes. Oh, it's coming back now. The man cave. If we can find that, then I surely would be able to direct us to him. Yes.
Dad, this is so important. I understand you've done a lot. People might forget. You said you never did it to be remembered. I haven't forgotten, but that doesn't mean there's still more that you can do. If you can help me get that battery, we can bring it back here, and we can give that wind wall another shot, a little bit more time for them to be able to build a replacement this time.
The odds of the battery surviving after all of these years are pretty slim, son. You understand that?
I know, but I researched a lot about the Spero Initiative, and those ships were meant to last centuries if they could. And I think if it was preserved relatively well inside that cockpit, I think we have a good chance at it being okay. But you sound just like them, believe me. I understand that. That's why they didn't want to give us some ship to get there faster.
Well, while the odds are stacked against us, crazier things have happened, eh?
Yeah, Dad. Odds were always in your favor.
Oh, I don't mean that. Come on, we don't have a lot of time.
You're right. Okay. And he sort of stands up, brushing past the waitress, who's sort of confused, and he's like, sorry, no, we'll catch it tomorrow, maybe. And he follows you outside to the street. Dad, do you even know where you're going?
Yes, where is the Nyx 22? If we can take the Nyx 22, we'll be able to find it. Son, I'm joking. It's a joke. Get us a car or a rover, rather, and we'll go find it.
Since when are you one for telling jokes?
I had a friend who once told me a joke. I don't remember it. It wasn't very funny.
Really?
Something about math. Anyways, we're wasting time.
And he starts heading towards the garage. And he sort of stops. He says, Dad, I think we're just going to have to drive there.
I've got it. I remember now. It starts like this. Would you like to hear a joke?
What? No, Dad, we need to...
Did you hear the one about the mathematician who's afraid of numbers?
No.
He'll stop at nothing to avoid them.
You know, there's a time and a place. And he turns around, sort of stifling a laugh, and continues walking towards the garage.
I don't think I get it anymore.
And you can hear him laughing over the bustling of the street. And he gets to his car and pulls it out. And it's sort of this almost Land Rover-esque machine with wheels that are sort of branching off from it to be able to go over terrain that's rocky. And the door opens up, revealing sort of the interior, which is sort of encased in glass and sort of a roll cage. And he walks out and helps you up to the passenger seat.
Thank you. And my bag?
You don't have... Dad, we don't have time.
I need my bag.
Oh, my God. Did you bring it with you to the... Oh, and he looks down, and sure enough, you have left your bag just on the sidewalk. And he bends down, and he picks it up, and he tosses it towards you.
Careful with that.
Yes. And he gets in and sort of loosens his tie, and he kind of says, he looks at the clock. This is not opportune. I thought they would at least lend us a ship to get there. I mean, we would be back in under an hour, but just typical.
Well, start driving. The sooner you begin driving, the sooner we get there.
And he fires up the engine and roars, and as you move through the city, you see the people passing by, all different ages, all of them hopeful, young. The city does look like a utopia. The buildings are high in the sky, bright colors reflecting the beautiful blue-green sky high above. The people look happy, complacent, peaceful. They walk about as if they have jobs, as if they have purpose, as if they have meaning. And this new world really has granted people that opportunity to start again. And after 4 years on a ship, everyone, when they landed, they were ready to create more. And as you drive through the city, you approach the large bordering gate towards the wind wall.
And I say, do you have your key card?
Yeah, Dad. Of course.
I think I have mine here somewhere. And I begin rifling through my bag. It's not here. Why can't I find it? Where's my key card to get through the gate?
Dad, you don't have a key card. And he reaches over and he scans his key card, and the large, massive sort of cement doors begin opening, revealing sort of the almost like the locks in a water.
I used to.
I know you did, Dad, but you're not. You're not in active duty anymore. You retired, remember?
I liked my key card.
You can borrow mine when we get home. And you exit through the cement columns which close, booming behind you, and you're sort of sitting in this well, waiting for the other doors to open. And as you do, the wind outside sort of begins seeping in, and you drive off into the storm. And shortly after you begin driving, Christopher turns to you and says, Dad, you can close your eyes. It's going to be a bit of a way, and I know most of it.
And I'm still rifling through my bag. And I reach in and I pull out a book. And I say, there was once a song that said, there ain't no rest for the wicked.
Okay.
And so I won't close my eyes. Instead, I am going to read you a passage from my favorite book.
Dad, you don't need to read to me.
Chapter 14. Oh, I should preface this by saying that this is Martin Rattler, and it was introduced to me by a dear friend of mine a long time ago. We were on a voyage. Either way. Or nevertheless, even. Chapter 14. I will read you. It is pleasant when the sun is bright and the trees are green, and when flowering shrubs and sweet-smelling tropical trees scent the balmy atmosphere at eventide, to lie extended at full length in a canoe and drop easily, silently, yet quickly, down the current of a noble river, under the grateful shadow of overhanging foliage, and to look lazily up at the bright blue sky which appears in broken patches among the verdant trees, or down at the river in which the bright sky and those green leaves are reflected, or aside at the mud banks where greedy vultures are searching for prey and lazy alligators are basking in the sun, and to listen the while to innumerable cries and notes of monkeys, toucans, parrots, or flycatchers, white-winged and blue chatterers, and all the myriads of birds and beasts that cause the forests of Brazil, above all other forests in the world, probably to resound with the gleeful songs of animated nature.
You read that to me before, Dad. You used to read that to me as a kid.
You remember?
Of course I remember. Why don't you shut your eyes for a minute, Dad?
I am getting rather dozy. I could close my eyes. Stick to the road, Christopher.
Yeah, Dad. Of course.
Stick to the road.
You find yourself laying down in a bed with a man you've never seen standing over you. He has a hand on your shoulder, and he talks. His voice is muffled, almost inaudible. He walks out of the room, which is revealed to be a beautiful forest of green and blue, and you're lying in a canoe which sails softly down the river, and you look on either side of the river, and the animals are alive, singing, filling the world with sound, and you feel pleasant. And you look towards your feet, and you see a woman. You see a woman you haven't seen in a long time, and she leans out from the canoe and drags her hand across the water, still as glass. And she sort of smiles coyly at you. And the canoe stops at the edge of the river. And she climbs out, and you follow. And she leads you towards a lush, beautiful garden. And she hides behind a tree. Dad, you hear. Dad, are you okay?
Christopher?
Dad, you're crying.
Yes.
And sure enough, there are tears sort of streaking down your face.
I'm fine. I think I had a dream.
Yeah. Dad, who's Sarah? You said that name in your dream.
Sarah isn't someone I've thought about in a very long time, and I feel as if I just saw her. Oh, the dream. I must have seen her in the dream, because I feel as if I was just with her. She was my first wife. And I loved her. And she died.
I didn't know that, Dad. I'm sorry.
It's not something I made a habit of talking about when you all arrived. I suppose I wanted to move on from it, but can you really? It was beautiful where she was. My goodness, Christopher, you should have seen it. It was a beautiful garden.
I bet.
And I open up my bag and I shake my head. And I say, "You must be hungry, Christopher."
Sure, Dad, yeah.
And I pull out an apple. This is from Ned. I picked it earlier today just for you. I want you to have it.
How is old Ned? And he takes it.
Oh, he's doing marvelously. He says hello, and he's happy the kids are doing well in the neighborhood right beside him.
Well, I'm glad, he says as he eats the apple. And looking out the front window, you see that the storm has passed and that it's actually nighttime. You can see the stars, thousands upon thousands of them, illuminating the sky high above you. The planet has a unique, unspoiled by any sort of light pollution, almost entirely. And as you gaze up towards the stars, almost with a sense of wonder, you see Chris staring with a brow towards the road before him.
Is everything all right, Christopher?
Oh, yeah, no, of course. I'm just trying to focus on the road. The task at hand. It's a lot.
What do you see when you look up there?
Dad, I'm trying to focus on the road right now. I'm not really... My mind's not in the...
The stars are all different here.
Yeah.
New constellations will have to be made.
Well,
Perhaps you could name a few.
Dad, a lot of them were already named. That was one of the first things that they did after they set up the school. You know that.
Was it?
Yeah, you helped.
Oh, yes. Well, they are beautiful, aren't they?
And for a second, you kind of see him buy into your whimsy, and he sort of looks up from the road, safely, of course, and sort of says, "Yeah, Dad, they are. They're pretty awesome. I remember being a kid. I remember you taking us out stargazing, trying to sell us on the concept of God."
How did that work out?
Well, I don't want to disappoint you, but I don't think I really ever believed.
That's all right. Neither did my father. He just thought maybe there was room.
I know, but you're pretty religious, Dad. I feel bad about disappointing you in that way.
No, nonsense. There's absolutely no way that you could disappoint me, Christopher. Just your spirit, just as it is, and I don't mean that in a religious context. You understand? I mean that as your fire, your vigor, your drive, your need to act and do things. I have a profound respect for it. So whatever you believe is fine with me.
Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. And he sort of hides a smile and then looks back down to the road. And you drive for a good while. And as it reaches just past midnight, maybe, he slows down to a crawl. Dad, I think that might be the man cave. And he sort of points past the window.
And there is a big dip in the ground, about 10 by 10 feet. And sure enough, there is a hole in the wall where the front wall is completely caved in. But I can definitely make out forms of where my mining tool had cut into the wall, though it is quite eroded now.
Do you know where the Nyx is from here?
That shouldn't be too far. Continue down this way. And be careful, the ground is uneven here, and avoid that hole. That's just sand in there. Well, maybe things have shifted slightly in 40 years, but keep your eyes peeled. I marked it with something.
All right. And he slowly starts taking the rover down sort of a rocky terrain, and it comes down to a bit of a flat area, and you can see he's very cautiously driving past sort of these hills, and it becomes tight and then wider, and eventually he's falling along the river. And there comes a point that you're sort of leading him where the rocks become just a bit too impassable, and the rover sort of grinds to a halt. Well, Dad, do you think you can make it on foot the rest of the way?
If you help me, yes.
Yeah, of course.
I bring my book.
I don't think you'll need it, but that's up to you.
I think I'll bring it. And I look lost in thought as I push the door open with some effort.
And he walks around and sort of helps you down.
Oh, thank you. These series of rocks came down while I was here. The 3 years. They did. And it was only a few days, or weeks rather, after the Nyx crash landed. We had created I guess, an issue with the rocks, and the integrity did not hold, and it collapsed. I hadn't. This was, of course, after I had salvaged as much as I needed from the ship that it happened, and I'm glad I wasn't there when it did. But that might be part of the reason why I didn't think bringing you as a 10-year-old. I'm rambling now.
That's all right, Dad. I understand. I get it. And he sort of walks with you, sort of placating in a way, and he puts his, your shoulder over his, or your arm over his, and he begins walking, and you begin navigating through the stones.
And I look down into his hand, and I see a mining tool, similar to the one that I have.
Sort of like a second-generation version of it.
Exactly. And I say, I don't think I've had the chance to use that one. May I?
And you can tell he looks hesitant. Dad, yeah, okay, sure. And he hands it to you. Just be careful, please.
And I take it, and it's quite cold. My hand, as I take it out of my pocket, is quite chilly, and I wrap it around the cold metal, and I hold it in my hands, and I say, Is this the safety mechanism here?
Yeah.
And I just hold it like that. Oh, it's actually quite similar. And I hold it up against a rock, and I pull the trigger, and there's a humming noise as the beam activates, and I just slice down the middle of a rock, and it crumbles to our feet.
Not bad, Dad. I'm impressed.
This is absolutely fascinating. When we get back, would we be able to take it apart and look at it? The crystal inside it must be immaculate to cut like that.
Yeah, sure, Dad. We can do whatever you'd like.
And I hand it back to him, and I point to an outcropping of rocks. And I say, that should be the spot. I did mark the rocks with my mining tool to be able to find it later, but I think they've all eroded away by now. But if you dig in that general area, you should come to the Nyx at some point.
And he sort of nods and walks over and the mining tool that he had already holstered, he removes from his holster again and begins mining into it as sort of flakes of rock begin chipping off. And eventually, it starts chipping away, and he can sort of make it through. Dad, I think I have a hole big enough to fit through.
Yes, I sat down and nodded off, and there's some frost forming on my mustache. And I push myself off the ground and begin limping over, and my limp gradually disappears as I make it to Christopher, and he helps me. And the ship, what he's cleared away, it looks like the ship has filled a little bit with sand, but for the most part it is a clean walk to the back.
It is. Now the ship itself is sort of just with a natural degrade of time. It's sort of a good distance above you. It's that to the point where it sort of has a drop off. And Christopher sort of stands at the back looking up and says, Dad, do you think you can boost me up there so I can grab the battery? And he sort of looks around. Maybe I can find a way to get a rock or something.
And I look at the ship, and I say, hello?
Dad, it's all booted down. There's nothing that's gonna... Are you trying to talk to your ship, or E?
There used to be a voice activation, but I suppose... E... Oh, Christopher, I know this is a lot to ask of you, but I think that you should be the one to boost me up.
Dad, no, you're...
I need... I want to be up there. This is my ship, and I feel like I should be the one to investigate it for the first time after all these years. So please boost me.
And you can see he sort of toys with it for a minute. Dad, boot up the ship. Remove the battery. And then let's go home, okay?
Deal.
And he sort of begrudgingly cups his hands and sort of awkwardly helps lift you up to the back of the ship.
And it's difficult in the dark, but I do manage to, with the thin light that's coming from the headlights of the rover, I'm able to find good handholds and pull myself up until I feel the metal struts of the busted part of the ship and pull myself up to it.
Perfect.
An image of myself reaching the top of a branch in a tree coming to mind.
Mm-hmm. And you lean your sort of the front of your body over the ship, and he sort of pushes up your feet, and you make your way in. And as you do, you're greeted by the familiar hallway that you spent 4 years of your life. And how do you feel?
Less than I would have expected. But I do feel warmth. A very, very faint warmth, like an ember burning deep within my chest.
And you see Eos, sort of his main terminal, sitting on the far wall at the back of this hallway, and there's sort of the boot-on capsule, and then underneath it the battery, a removal slot. And it's a large battery, and it sort of carries a constant charge that you hope still lasts all these years. And as you work your way down the halls, you see sort of the sand-covered walls begin to fade, and you're greeted with an odd sense of familiarity. This is a place you spent many years of your life waking up every morning speaking with E. And for a moment you sort of replay a few conversations in your head, almost jokingly.
E?
Yes, Lieutenant Matthews?
What's your favorite color?
I don't have a favorite color, Lieutenant Matthews. I'm not sure what favorite means.
How would you pick that? Yeah. Do you have to be programmed to have a favorite color?
I'm not too sure. For me, I guess it would just be a random choice, based on what colors most people like and what colors you like as well.
What colors do most people like, E?
Green, yellow, red, blue.
Statistically speaking?
Blue.
Blue's a good color. I think that's my favorite color, too.
It would stand a reason.
And I'm floating around in my bunk, just idling before bedtime. And another day, I'm sitting at the console, and I'm looking at different planets. And I say, E?
Yes, Lieutenant Matthews?
What about this one here? Minus 400 degrees Celsius on average. Mostly methane. Yeah.
I don't think that would be a very good planet, Lieutenant Matthews. Unfortunately, no. It doesn't exactly have the ability to sustain enough life.
But imagine, and entertain me for a second, that we went there and we adapted. We adapted to the cold and we evolved the way we're supposed to, the way Darwin tells us we're going to, and then everything would be fine. Why don't I just call Earth back right now and say, I've found a planet. It's minus 400 degrees there Celsius, but hey, if we just evolve, then it's not my problem.
Lieutenant Matthews, I can tell your heart rate is increasing. Are you upset?
We've scanned through 15,000 planets in the past 2 weeks. And this is the closest one to having Earthlings like me live on it.
Lieutenant Matthews, do you know what sparrow means? Spero
Refresh me.
Spero Initiative. Sparrow is Latin for hope. It means that this journey that you've decided to join might not end the way we want it to. But that doesn't mean that giving up is an option. We were both chosen. I understand it feels like all is lost. But remember, there's always hope. And his voice sort of rings out as you're brought back to the present. It sort of rings through the halls, and as you approach Eos at the end of the hall, you sort of smile and stand before the sort of dust-covered panel.
And aside from the warmth and sense of familiarity, a curiosity is piqued. And I wipe off the dust on the screen and on the buttons on the side, and I begin typing in the launch code for EOS, just to see.
And yes, after sort of you hear this sort of churning of gears, and then a boop, light comes on, and the soft blue tint of E comes back online. Good morning, Lieutenant Matthews. It is day 17,624. Wow, I've been asleep for quite a while, haven't I?
Yes, you have.
You've aged quite a bit, Lieutenant Matthews.
Well, that's flattering. Thank you, EOS.
Is that... I didn't mean to disrespect...
No. It's okay. I'm joking. I'm booting you up right now just to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
This is the last time I'll get to speak with you. I'm sorry that I wasn't a better friend and activated you sooner than now, but
no,
here I am.
Lieutenant Matthews, you were the best friend I had. Can I ask you something? Did you find God?
I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Is it okay if I shut you down while I do?
Yes. One last question.
Go on.
Did you have a good life?
Yes. Yes,
I
I did.
It was pleasant then?
It was and is very pleasant. I saw sights and I experienced things that were difficult, but I wouldn't have lived my life any other way.
I'm glad to hear it. Are you removing my battery?
Very soon, yes. But before I do, the real reason I booted you up was that I was in the mood for a joke. So if you could be so kind as to indulge me here in just one last little bit of humor, then I would greatly appreciate it.
Of course. What is an astronaut's favorite chocolate bar.
What's that?
A Mars bar.
I haven't had a Mars bar in years.
I thought you would like that.
We'll have to remember Mars bar for the next nutrient paste.
Yes, I hope so.
Thank you, E.
Thank you, Cormac.
Goodbye.
And as you pull the battery out of its slot, a charge that had sort of been dwelling sings through your body. And you can feel your heart beating fast, and you feel lightheaded and dizzy as you sort of turn around and begin dragging the battery to the exit.
And I get to the edge.
Dad?
The battery is...
Dad, what's wrong? Dad, are you okay? And he sort of... Christopher begins panicking, and you can see he sort of helps you down first and foremost, leaving the battery up. Dad, are you okay?
Sir.
And he sits you down, he leans you against a rock. And he sort of puts his hands on you and feels you, and you can see his face sort of drain of all color, and your vision sort of begins to blur. And he turns to you and he says, Dad, are you all right? And you try to answer, but you can't. Your tongue, you can feel it sort of thick, and Christopher's face just sort of goes wide, and he nods knowingly, and he says, It's okay, Dad. Close your eyes. You did what you needed to do.
And I nod weakly and hold a hand up to Christopher's face. And I close my eyes. And almost instantly, in my mind's eye, I see a stream with green grass on either side and flowers along the bank, and a tree overhanging the stream. And in the stream is a canoe, and Sarah sits inside. And she holds out her hand and says, Do I have things to show you?
The end. Ladies and gentlemen,
Whoa.
That was Coda, a really weird RPG? I don't really know.
Well, that was like most RPG I think that we've done. That was like 3 hours of straight improv.
That was like role-playing
like,
for sure.
Role-playing and dialogue and jeez.
Whew, heavy shit. Holy crap. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the INVICTUS stream.
I said improv. It wasn't all improv.
No, a combination of everything.
Combination of it all. There was lots of role-playing.
Good job, man. You did really good.
You too, dude. That was like, that felt really easy. Like, it just like,
man,
created itself.
That was a lot of fun. Okay, so
are we even live? Did we even do that?
Could you imagine?
Like,
how funny would that be if weren't even watching people?
Oh man.
Oh, okay. So first and foremost, hey everybody, welcome to the INVICTUS stream. Hope you have a good time or had a good time. Let's see we got MVP, mid-game post, and end-game post too. It's the first time we've skipped all of them, which is interesting. I'm kind of excited. Okay. MVP, who did we have for MVP this week? Do you remember?
I really like Dustin's this week.
Oh, yes. He had the post about songs or smells.
Smells, yeah.
Absolutely. Dustin, your post about smells, absolute 10. You win most valuable post. Yay! Secondly, we got mid-game post, which we can do end-game. So let's just say...
Oh, well, mid-game, we got to ask a question about...
That's what I was going to say. Let's ask you
like
a question about this game.
Yeah, okay.
What were the title of the 3 sections? Oh, you know what the problem was? I realized the first part, for whatever reason, the title didn't show up in the first part.
Oh no.
That's yeah. Also, that's the face I had. Was I stopped. I was playing the video, but I had the camera on you. So for like the first 5 seconds of the game, you're like, just like this. But I'll edit it out because I think it's pretty interesting.
That's okay. It won't show up in the podcast either.
Hopefully not. What was the... What... I don't know. What's a good character name? What? There's lots of characters. Oh, what was the name of the woman on the ship?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one. So under Coda on the Discord channel, it says mid-game post. Answer the question, what was the name of the girl on the ship for your chance to win mid-game XP? And finally, end-game XP. We did not look at the Discord chat really at all. I mean, I did very, very little. So who did you guys recommend as winning end-game XP? Because I don't know who was doing stuff. A lot of good comments, though. It seemed like people really liked it.
Yeah. I had no idea how it was being received.
Me neither. Let's see all the dislikes. Anybody?
There's no dice in this game.
30 likes. Wow.
Nice.
That's
and we didn't even
surprising.
tell anybody to like. Maybe we should just not tell anybody to
I know.
like
Not tell anybody
from
to
the
watch
start.
it. Someone said, love this. E was a good letter.
Why don't we spend some time? We got about 10 minutes. We're going to be figuring out who wins the end game
Endgame.
post. But why don't we answer some questions? I'm curious to hear what you guys thought and what ideas you had or thoughts during the game. So let loose, people.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes, and it's just you and I, so it's not like...
Yeah.
No dislikes. It was so good. Hey, look at that. They liked it.
Sweet.
I figured it would be like a 50-50 draw. Either like people would be like, yeah, we enjoyed it, or people would be like, that was the fucking worst thing I've ever seen. So yeah, why don't you tell a little bit about... Well, why don't I say what the concept was first and foremost, just for funsies.
Yes. Yeah, talk about that.
And honestly, I really like the idea of telling a character story. Like, basically splitting the GM task where one person would focus on the character's story and make it as interesting as the game, and the other person would focus on the world story and make that sort of part of the game too. So that was sort of the idea. And I think we each sort of wrote half of a game and then came together to make it. Well, two parallel games, because you wrote so much, like, amazing stuff about your character.
I kind of stepped on your toes a little bit in the world creation there.
No, but that was sort of meant to be blurry. I meant more, not world creation, but more like that's the story.
Yeah.
Like, because you had the story of you, which was about Sarah and Ned and your dad and your mom and your religion, which, by the way, neither of us are religious. Which I think was... But you know what? But I think did good justice. Like, you did it with respect, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about what inspired you to make this character and such?
Sure. Yeah. Well, actually, I've been reading a book by Orson Scott Card, and it's called How to Write Science Fiction and Fantasy. And pretty much when Harlan came to me with the idea for this, I was reading a chapter about speculative fiction and what kind of questions you should be asking. And like, it's easy to like create like a shell of a character. So yeah, you've got, Cormac Matthews. He's really smart. He's on a ship and he's, studied really, really hard. But then the question is, why? Why did he study really hard? Mm-hmm. And that question got me thinking about his past quite a bit, and what motivation the motivation to study hard that came to me was it was an escape from his depression. And then why is he depressed? Wife passed away in childbirth, and yada yada yada, so on and so forth. Why did he become why did he sign up for the Spero Initiative in the first place? And the why for that, I guess, is a little bit more blurry, but I don't think we really explained that in the game.
No, but that's kind of what's so cool about it, because there was a lot of backstory that maybe didn't get, but I still think people got a really good sense of the character because of the way you sort of reacted to things. I think so. And I don't think I would have been able to react that way if I hadn't done that thinking in advance. It was like, it was natural. It was extremely natural for me to just go with it because I knew I had a better sense for the character, I guess, and what his reactions would be in the moment. And you threw me quite a few curveballs there. Yeah, that was really good. All of the interactions between E and all that stuff were just like, I was riffing on what you were saying. I was kind of like, I wonder would he do this? What if he would do that? I really liked, I gotta say, to me, my big thing is like parallels in like starts and finishes, and I gotta say, fuck, I love the fact that Martin Rattler quote came through each timeline in a different way. I did not intend that. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be nice. And then what else? There's like 3 or 4 things, and the fact that and I'm sure people caught this because it's my game and I tend to like this shit, but like how the dream you started off with was the way you died at the end. Obviously, like the first thing in the game, it literally starts off with you being in a dream where a person says, "Dad, are you okay?" and says,
yes.
Did you even catch that?
I didn't.
It starts off and it says, "There's a man about your age. He turns to you and says, Dad,
I remember
are you
that.
all right?" You try to answer, but you cannot. He nods knowingly. "It's okay, Dad. Close your eyes. You did what you needed to do." Which I thought was really cool.
That is really, really cool.
I like when things like that.
It did feel like there was a tight little bow there.
Yeah, I love bows.
It was like there were a couple like different bows too that I think we both contributed towards, kind of.
Sure. Yeah.
Like the bow that I tied at the end, like with the last line, "Do I have things to show you?"
Oh,
that was fed so much. Well, by the poem that came back again and again and again.
But also with the teaching of your dad showing you and you showing Christopher.
Yeah.
And like those parallels too, I really like. The fact that like Christopher was like, "Oh, I remember when I was 10 that you telling me about God," and like how that's similar to like the way that your dad sort of told you, but sort of in the other way. It's just really cool.
Yeah. I really liked that Christopher wasn't religious.
Yes.
I really liked that the story did not become about like, oh, I've got to impart God to my son.
I like that too. Because it's interesting how we diverted, and I'm glad we did, not in a bad way, but like Justin did so much research on like, I basically came to him, I was like, here are going to be 3 parts. These are the things you need to know. Like you need to know what your shelter looks like in part 2. You need to know that you're going to be 40 years older in part 3. And you need to know like basically your daily routine on part 1. And he like, and there was other things in there, but he like wrote fucking a novel of like stuff, which was great because he had stuff to read from and like get into the minds of the character. But I think the big thing is we diverted sort of on what the third part looked like. I think you wanted to go a lot more inspirational, and I wanted to go a lot darker. But I think we met really well in the middle.
I think so,
because I think it was like
it was kind of both.
It was both, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I liked,
definitely.
Yeah.
It was dark at the end, but it didn't feel like it. Definitely felt uplifting to me. Personally,
I think it was absolutely uplifting. That's the thing. Yeah. Things don't have to be like, to be like,
and he survived and they live happily ever after.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just like one little moment. Yeah, like that one little moment where Chris had, like you said, Chris had that moment of understanding and he said, "Oh, it's going to be okay, Dad." That little touch was all that it took, I think, to make that ending, as sweet as it was.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a sweet ending. There were so many sweet parts. This is so stupid to be gushing about your own game, but I really loved...
We'll just cut this out for the podcast.
Oh, yeah, the podcast won't have any of this. But I really loved how you dealt with Sarah being fake. How you're just... Because I didn't incorporate how... I pictured she was going to be real until you went to bed and you're going to kiss her goodnight and she's going to be like... we don't really know how it's going to work. But the way you're just kind of like... You like got dour real quick and you were like, this isn't what this is. I love that. That was a really cool way to do it.
I'm glad, because I saw you making like faces and I was like, oh no.
No, I was like, yeah, do it. I was like, yeah. That's the thing. Behind the scenes, there were a lot of me being like, and Justin being like, like little things like that about trying to do the radio play aspect of it, which I really liked it.
Like the joke at the end. Just tell me one more joke.
Yeah, that was so. And then, because you guys don't see that, but Justin's like, "I'd like to hear one more joke." I'm like, "Oh fuck, Google a joke, and then I'm like, "I got a joke," which was really great too. And I liked how that joke came back too. Same type of thing where you're like, "Oh no, oh shit, is this still working?"
Oh, did we lose it?
I don't know.
I hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know if we're still streaming though.
Oh no,
it's fine.
That's so funny.
Well, whatever. At least it didn't happen during the game. I'll check if.
Are we done streaming now? Then
I have no idea. It still says streaming, but I don't know if we are. I'll check.
I hated that game. No, just kidding. I loved it. I enjoyed every second of it.
I got a joke.
I enjoyed it too.
Which was really good.
I'll find it right now.
I liked how that joke came back too. Same type of thing where you were like,
"Oh yeah, no, I'm still out."
Hey!
Still out. But yeah, no, I really liked that dream. And then I like posted it for you in the chat again. I was just like, Justin, this is it. It was good. I do want to say something because I think this is the perfect opportunity. Yeah. Unless you want to talk about the game some more.
Well, let's see if we had any questions.
Did anybody have any questions? Put them in the mid-game post. First off, let's answer the mid-game post. If you have any questions, put them in the mid-game post slot because we will see them. And we had Alora, Alora. Yes. I didn't spell it any of that way, but you were all correct. That's 5.
Yep.
We'll roll a 1d6 and re-roll on a 6.
Right,
and it is a 5, which means...
Jacob
Watterson, you win the mid-game post.
And for endgame, I don't know, who is Talax? Who is this person? Are they new? Are you new, Talax? Are you in the Facebook group? Because he was nominated. I think it was Zia nominated him. Someone nominated.
There are people. There are people chatting in the YouTube chat too. KJK and Mule Blast, the Ultimate Gamer. How do you guys like the experience of playing an RPG with no rolling? It's like the only way I want to play. Yeah, I was gonna say it. I hate rolling.
I love it. I mean, especially a game like this when it's just like the real point of this is just to tell a story. 100%. It's not to get that feeling of
satisfaction,
playing someone. That satisfaction of like leveling up and like
it's satisfaction, but in a different way. It scratches a different part of my brain.
Yeah. Rather
than being like, I cut that guy's head off, it's like, oh my god, I died a good death.
Yes,
like
exactly. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, I enjoy playing games like this, especially when it's just you and Harlan too. Like when it's just you and Harlan. Like,
I was gonna say, you just referred to yourself in the third person or what? I agree, and I mean, I wouldn't do it all the time. Like even Telex said, he's like, I think Megan was like, guys, gotta do another one, and Telex is like, I don't know if I can handle another one. I think this would be a pretty rare thing because it's a lot. Like we were literally talking for 3 hours straight.
Oh yeah, and also the amount of energy that went into preparing it and getting
a lot,
an understanding. Oh yeah, it was a lot.
Telex asked, "What do muffalope taste like?"
Oh, you know what? I still don't know. To this day, I don't know. Name. Now, muffalope. You know what that's from?
No.
No? Oh,
like buffalo and antelope. I'm assuming.
A muffalo is an animal in RimWorld, which I've been playing a little bit more than.
Oh yeah, I have played.
But then because they're like antelopes a little bit, they were muffalopes. So.
Oh, that's cute. So what does Harlan against Justin in one shots? I think you're missing a word there. What does Harlan do? Against
what does Justin?
What does Harlan
sing?
Against Justin?
What does Justin lean against Justin in one shots? What do you lean against me? Fishing pole?
Probably. That was fun. I think
that was fun.
I think my favorite part was the first part. I really liked you kind of having that mundane routine.
You know what? I liked that too. And I also loved to gush. Oh, I just had another thought, but I also loved to gush about the science.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you love that, yeah, because he did like research.
Drive?
Yeah, I knew you want to talk about it, but the problem is like, how do you work that in so it sounds natural? You did it. You did it well with your video diary back on the planet.
Yes.
I really liked the plant, Ned. That was so good.
Ned, yeah, Ned.
And you know what? I knew the frost
supposed to die.
Well, I knew the frost was going to kill him. I needed a catastrophe. I was like, okay, I'll have a frost kill them. But like when you like again, you're like, but one lives. Abso-fucking-lutely, because it's a better story. You know what I mean? That's the thing with all this shit. It's just better story. Like that's what this is about. Like I even wrote with Justin. I was like, if we get bored, like maybe you cut yourself. Maybe E needs to be shut off because you won't shut up. Like we'll just do whatever. Yeah.
I really liked that too. That was another like that tied in like in that episode of just like the one plant that wasn't doing so well. Was,
and then ended up growing bigger, and then ended up being the tree 40 years later.
The tree
it's really cool.
The apple came from, which is
literally the giving tree, sort of. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
no, it was really fucking cool.
There's like, I think, I don't know, maybe like we're gonna like listen to it when
we're gonna hate it
to be like, oh my god,
so boring. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely slow, but to me, like, it's no different than a story. I mean, to me, I'd write a story about a guy who was part of an initiative to join a colonized planet, crashed on the planet, saw visions of his dead wife, found a new thing, came back with a son. Like, it's a good story, I think.
And speaking of being a good story, you know what I realized it really parallels?
What?
A Christmas Story. Ghost of Christmas Past, Future, and Present.
Yeah.
Mixed up, but there's something there. I can't explain exactly why, but there is...
I was honestly, if we want to get metaphysical or whatever, or existential, it was meant to be like man versus self, man versus machine, and man versus like his child or whatever, or man versus man, because man versus man was you and Christopher, man versus machine was you and E, and man versus himself was you versus Sarah. Like the not versus so much, but like the idea of having two characters that encompassed all of these experiences. And I mean, I put work into like, I mean, it was also meant to be a like musical. Music played a big part in it. The whole thing's called Coda, which again, I was thinking like DC Coda or whatever, where it comes back or whatever. What's the word? DCL Coda?
DCL Coda.
Yeah. And the first part was called Prelude, the second part was called Nocturne, and then Adagio. Nocturne is meant to be fantasy, like fantastical, which is why Sarah existed. Or what my justification. Adagio means slow. It's a slow movement, which is why you were like old and took your fucking time. And Prelude, I mean, that's pretty obvious. So,
took
like,
my fucking time.
No, I meant like as an old person, not like
you took your fucking time, man.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. You wanted to say something. You said this is a good time to talk.
I want to talk about something that was coming up that Kellen already knows about. You know, the big P.
The big P, right? Yes, that is a good thing to bring up.
Yeah. So does anyone else, I guess no one else has any other questions. If you have any questions, put them in the mid-game post slot. We'll be happy to answer them. But, there's some more questions here. Are you involved with theater? Your performance seemed very genuine. Thank you. Pretty good game, as well as the ending. You guys give top quality stuff. Thank you. The system was great. Pretty much almost any system is awesome. Not really a system. It's sort of just us. I can't even think this is a system. Anyway.
But no, you know what? Actually, I would say that it kind of is a system. I think your philosophy, like, it's not a written system that you can buy at FFG, but your philosophy of one person's going to be in charge of like writing the story and the world and that, and then another person's really in charge of the characters, which is kind of supposed to be what role-playing games are like, but not really, because you still have to, both roles still have to create setting. Yeah, and there's going to be an overlap where the story takes place. The character has to create its history and biography and setting, while the storyteller has to create those things as well. So,
and I think the other thing about that is that oftentimes you're encouraged to write this backstory, and yes, good GMs incorporate that. But when you make it sort of the goal of the game to incorporate it, like the goal of this game was to tell your backstory. It really was. It was about in creating these characters. So like when you have that too, I think it's a little bit different too in a good way.
Yeah.
We just had Telex join the stream, and someone else. Please welcome Benjamin Potash to the group. Welcome, friends.
Beautiful.
How'd you find us, Ben?
This is on Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, then that might be Telex.
Yeah, it definitely was. I ask everybody the same question.
Oh.
Because I'm fair. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have something really important to talk about. And if I could borrow your ear for a minute. We are officially launching a Patreon account.
Harlan.
What? Have I talked shit about
all
them in the
those
past?
things you said?
Listen, I had Bjorn run all of the things I've ever said about Patreon. and post them. And I have not really said that much bad stuff about it. My only issue with Patreon is when people do it without providing anything. Like, we've had invites literally sent to us being like, hey, I want to start streaming. I need to buy a mic and a camera and da-da-da. Can you support me? I disagree with that. But on our side of it, we have been doing this for almost 4 years. And I pay for the podcast hosting. I pay for the website hosting. I buy business cards and stickers that we hand out at like Gen Con, or not Gen Con, but like Breakout Con and other conventions. And I buy the chicken wings for when we do Hot Ones Challenge and like all this kind of shit. It adds up. And I am not about necessarily like rolling in piles of cash, but I also don't want to be losing money. And right now we're at the point where to give you guys a podcast, I'm losing money. And that just is not smart business. It's just stupid to be like, yeah, I'll just keep losing money to something I love and also do in my spare time. So to combat that is the first sort of initiative. Secondly, because there are people out there that do want to give us money. And thirdly, yeah, because I'll be fucking honest, if I could do this and not have to worry about a real job, you bet your fucking ass I would do it. And having money justifies it. If I'm like, oh, you know, I can't go home and do a spooky stream because I gotta work. But if I'm like, well, we are making money, it makes it a lot easier to do. So totally. These are all the reasons that it's sort of reached the point where we're like, okay, you know what? Patreon is something that is worthwhile doing. Why am I mentioning it today? Well, we're going to launch it next week, and there's going to be a much better sort of talk about, you know, why we're doing it and all that kind of stuff. But one of the reward tiers that we're going to be doing, we're only going to be doing 3 tiers, a $3, a $5, and a $10. Again, we're not trying to do it too high. 3 is honestly just a thank you. It's like if you want to give us money, but you don't really want anything and you just want to keep it low, it's sort of like cup of coffee type stuff. The $5 tier, however, is going to put you on an email list. And at the end of every month, you're going to get emailed a PDF copy of the GM's notes for the 4 or 5 games that happen that month. Meaning, I guess it's May 1st. So April would have been, what, 2 chapters of The Undefeated. What the fuck did we run in April?
What did we run in April? We ran the Lazarus Project.
Lazarus Project.
And one more. I don't remember which, though.
It's frustrating. Now I'm just going to pull it up because it's better to use my example if I have real-world examples of what you're going to actually get. So we had Episode 8, Episode 7, Joe and Harlan play Terraria. No, fuck. Have we not done that many streams? Ugh, come on, load, you stupid videos. There we go. East of Eden, I guess, would have been one, eh?
East of Eden,
or yeah, Fate of Eden. Beginning. And maybe Assault on Precinct 13. So episode 7 and 8 of chapters, Project Lazarus, and the Fate of Eden. So if you're interested in sort of what the GMs wrote behind the scenes in any of those games, you would get an email come May 1st or the end of April by subscribing to that like $5 reward tier with all of those game notes. Now, Chapters of the Undefeated would obviously be a bit different. Joe's going to cut stuff out so you're not revealed like secrets coming up. And you would get all of what we wrote for Project Lazarus, all of the stuff you guys contributed, as well as the Fate of Eden, sort of in a PDF file. Now, I will say this could be a line of stuff, because there are games that absolutely I've only written like a few lines.
On a napkin.
On like a napkin. I will scan it and send it to you. So don't back expecting, you know, a mountain of stuff that you can run right away.
Like modules.
Yeah. However, there are games like Coda, which literally ended up being maybe 16 pages of shit that we wrote between Justin and I.
Just huge. You wrote a lot too, eh?
I wrote a ton, yeah. So
nice.
I wrote part 1, 2, 3, all the characters, and Justin just wrote, again, like 3 novels worth of stuff. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. 3 novels worth of stuff.
Wow, 3 pages. I didn't realize I was 300,000 words this morning. Jeez, that's a record.
It is a bit of a mixed bag, but that's a really big benefit. I mean, a lot of you guys have asked over the years for our notes, and it's something that we want to do, but honestly, doing it and behind sort of a monetary motivation makes it really easy to justify. It's like, okay, guys, everyone send your notes. I can put these in a PDF, and we can send these off to you at the end of the month. So you'll get that when you back us for $5 a month. The $10 reward tier gets everything previous, so you'll get this every month as well. But you'll also get a secret video sent to you monthly, a 10 to 15 minute video.
Ooh. What kind of secret video are
It's
you talking
probably going to be
about?
similar to this. Like when we finish a stream one night, we're probably going to start recording, and whoever's playing that game will be talking about stuff. We might be answering questions. We might be talking about what's going on in our lives or what we want to do system-wise, trailer-wise, or, just personal, sanitary issues.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything. Again, we don't want to keep it too restrictive because we don't want to make it difficult. The whole goal of this is, again, to give you guys an opportunity to send some money if you want, because we've had people asking. And again, secondary, or I should say first, to pay these fees of like the podcast hosting, which is burning a hole in my pocket. Those are the real motivations to do it. So a more focused sort of explanation is going to be coming next week. Again, on Wednesday, we're going to do an official sort of, here's what we're doing on Patreon. But if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Facebook. You guys all have me on Facebook anyway. And I hope you consider doing it, because it would be real cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the $10 tier, you get Chris's real name. Oh, I should also mention, actually, on the Discord, when you back on Patreon at any level, you get a new category. It's called Patreon Supporters, and there will be a private room that Patreon supporters can hang out into, like the lounge or something like that. It'll just be the same, but it'll only be for exclusive people, and I'll probably hang out in there. That's it. Perfect.
Sweet. Patreon!
And let's see if there's any... Oh, is Leary running next week? No, next week I think we're back to Chapters of the Undefeated.
Chapters. Yeah, Leary. We're going to have to hold on to that one for...
You know what I was thinking too? That to me would be perfect for a two-person. So next week we are doing Chapters. I'm pretty sure the 2 weeks after that...
It'll be a very different vibe. It'll be, I imagine, darker.
Oh, much darker.
Much darker.
Much darker. Let me see.
Yeah.
So this we're off. So two more chapters, and then on the 23rd, we're doing another one shot. Maybe that'll be Leary County. You'll have to see. And that's it. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Questions for yourself, Justin? Stuff you just want to talk about?
Questions for myself. Yeah, no, I am glad that everybody came. Next week, we're back to Chapters of the Undefeated. This week, I did post a mission for the Chapters of the Undefeated, and I'm still waiting on people to reply to that one. You guys were really, really active on the first post. So the second one, I'm probably going to bump again this week instead of just doing a new mission, because I don't want anybody to feel like they're behind. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want people to like get to week like part 3 of this mission and be like, oh, but I've only done part 1, now I've got to do 2 parts and it's too much. No. And even if you want to write like a paragraph, like, it doesn't even have to be a full paragraph. It can be just a sentence of like, my character finds the rats, he starts attacking the rats, but he finds that the rats are... They have a leader who is even stronger and smarter and starts talking to me, or something crazy like that. Like, it doesn't have to be a lot, but you just don't stress about it if you are, and if you aren't stressed about it, then I look forward to seeing your post on part 2.
Post away. Perfect. Well, there you go. Chapters of the Undefeated next week. Join the Justin game, or the community game.
The Justin game.
The Justin game. The Justin time. The Justin game.
Hello, all, and welcome back to the Justin game.
How many people, just out of curiosity,
7
would consider joining our Patreon? Because I never actually polled.
Poll.
How many people are considering Patreon? I mean that I posed that question. If you're interested, just like XP it or like it or something like that. But I don't actually know. But that question means how many people are interested in like doing it. I know Kellen is.
Sweet.
Oh, Endgame XP.
Endgame. Talax.
Yeah, we get Telex. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And he's joined the Facebook group. I think it's... Who was it?
Who was who?
Oh, Dustin, and then mid-game was...
Oh, yeah, Dustin, Jacob, Watterson, and...
That's right.
Deluxe.
Perfect. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm tired.
Can you guys hear my cat?
I can't hear your cat. I was worried it was going to be like the entire game, but
all game, like something really like deep, and God is what saved me through those times.
The cat. I think they might have heard the cat once or twice. They did say something about the cat.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic night. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you like this one, share it. This one we definitely should put in podcast form.
Oh, yeah.
Just to try it. I want to add Adagio for Spartacus into it as well.
Oh, we got to add some music, too.
Yeah. Like, I literally picked Adagio for Spartacus because I pictured it over that scene. I actually might play it while I watch that scene back and see how it lines up. Anyway.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a great night. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, as my friend Justin always likes to say,
let's keep it simple. We'll see you around the